Good morning and welcome to everyone on the platform. Committee Secretary, can we confirm that we have a quorum?
Hi, good morning, Chairperson and everyone on the platform.
Recording in
Chair, we're
progress.
correct. Shall I do the roll call, Chair?
Yes, please.
Mr. Mbuyane,
Good morning, Chairperson. Good morning, colleagues. I'm present. Thank you very much.
Good morning.
Dr. Ntwane,
Good morning, Chairperson and colleagues. I'm present.
Good morning.
Ms. Mwatse,
Good morning, Chair, and good morning, everyone. I'm present.
Good morning.
Mr. Monakeri,
Good morning, Chair. Good morning, colleagues. I'm here, present.
Good
Thank you.
morning.
Mr. Malamatia,
Good morning, Chair. Good morning, colleagues. I'm present. Thank you.
Good morning.
Mr. Mulder,
Good morning, Chair. Good morning, all. I'm present. Chair, may I please be excused at 10. I have to be on a flight to Cape Town.
Okay, noted. Your apologies noted, Honorable Mulder.
Mr. Thring,
Morning, Chair. Morning, colleagues.
Morning.
Ms. Ronyana,
Morning, Chair. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Chair, those are members currently on the platform, Chair. The others may still join us, Chair. Thanks.
Thank you.
Mr. Bergman, I just met Mr. Bergman, Chair.
Okay, that's fine. We note that he's present. Can we then check whether there are any apologies submitted?
Chair, I have no apologies. If I do receive during the course of the meeting, I will indicate to you, Chair. Thanks.
Okay. Can we then have a move and a seconder for the adoption of the agenda as flighted? Honorable Monakedi and Honorable Mbuyane.
Thank you, Chair. I move for the adoption of this agenda. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Honorable Mbuyane.
Chairperson, thanks once again. I second for the adoption of the agenda. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Members, the purpose of our meeting today is to receive briefings from the National Lotteries Commission and the South African Bureau of Standards, and to engage them on their financial and non-financial performance for the third quarter of 2023-2024 financial year. This is so that the committee can assess the performance of the National Department against its resource allocation in compliance with Section 5 of the Money Bills Amendment Procedure and Related Matters Act number 9 of 2009. The SABS receive a portion of its funding as an annual transfer from the National Department's budget allocation, while the NLC is self-funded. The NLC is responsible for managing the proceeds from the National Lottery allocated for good causes on behalf of the state. The committee's oversight role is to ensure that these entities are achieving their set quarterly performance targets given the available resources. Can I then just check, Committee Secretary, will the NLC go first?
Chair, that's correct, Chair.
Okay, no, that's fine. Can I just hand to Ms. Matumela to introduce the entities?
Thank you, Chairperson, and good morning to the Honorable Chairperson and the Honorable members. Chair, as always, we thank the committee for the opportunity to present and also to interact with the committee this morning. Chair, from the NLC side, we have the Chairperson of the board, Professor Bani Pityana, together with a board member, Mr. Thembinkosi Bonakele. And the presentation, Chair, is going to be led by the Commissioner, Ms. Jody Scholz. And Ms. Scholz, Chair, is with her executive team, and she will introduce the executive chairperson. And then from the SABS side, Chair, we have the chairperson of the board, and that is Dr. Sandile Malinga, together with 2 board members, Dr. Nandipha Madiba and Ms. Deirdre Penfold. The presentation, Chair, is going to be led by the acting Chief Executive Officer, and that is Mr. Lungelo Ndobongwane. Mr. Ndobongwana is again with his executive team, and he will introduce his executive team when he starts the presentation, Chairperson. Thank you very much. From the DTI side, sorry, Chair, from the DTI side, Chair, we have Ms. Sandile Brown, who is from the regulation branch. We also have Dr. Chelio Demana, who is from the sectors branch. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Ms. Matomela. Let me hand over first, as you flag the presentation, Commissioner, can I just hand over to Dr. Pitiana, the Chair of the NLC Board, for some introductory remarks?
Chair, good morning.
I think
Thank
you've
you
got
very much
more
for the
than one
opportunity.
device sound on, because it's echoing. Can you try again?
Thank you. Thank you, Chair, and good morning to yourself and to all of the Portfolio Committee members. Chair, I think unfortunately my chair may be struggling to log in. I think we get a funny message when we get the Zoom link. So I just have the team working with him to ensure that he logs in. Perhaps he can come in afterwards with your permission, Chair.
Yes. Proceed, Commissioner.
Thank you very much, Chair. I just want to put my presentation on flight mode. Great. Thank you very much, Chair. Good morning to all of the Portfolio Committee members and the DTIC and the Bureau of Standards. We're talking about Q3 financial and non-financial reports. In the room, Chair, we gathered as the Lotteries Commission. I have with me Ms. Tina Maraj, she's the CFO, Ms. Tinswal Nkuna, she's the Executive Manager for Regulatory Compliance, Ms. Anashni Maharaj Derman, she's the Acting COO. I've got Mr. Kreet Mashego, he's the Acting Senior Manager, Strategy and Performance. I have in the room with me Mr. Vincent Jones, the Chief Audit Executive, Ms. Khao Moloko, and then Mr. Molemo Mokholane, the newly appointed Chief Risk Officer. I've received apologies from Mr. Lesedi Boyhang, the Executive Manager for Legal Services. He's busy with an urgent legal matter, and then Mr. Motibi Ramusi will join us shortly. Chair, so this is the National Lotteries team. And you can see, Chair, that we're trying to fill up the executive roles. We are busy with an org study. And so hopefully by the next time we present, we would be able to then have a full permanently appointed team. The overview of the presentation, it's the financial, non-financial, and then some other matters. Chair, our mandate from the legislation is very simple. We regulate, we promote, and we distribute. We regulate the national lotteries, other lotteries and sports pools. We also then promote through awareness sessions, training and development, capacity building, educational and informational measures, educating the public about the national lotteries. And then obviously we distribute a portion of the revenue that we receive from the sale of each lottery ticket to worthy causes as outlined in the Act. We're the sole regulator for lotteries and sports pools in South Africa. We're the largest funder. And then how we use that funding is as a catalyst for social development and for social cohesion. Our Q3 performance, Chair and honourable members, we have 13 targets. We've achieved 9 and we've not achieved 4. You will see from the presentation that this work is has already taken place in Q4, and I can also touch on some of those. So the first target in terms of looking at our review, our organizational review and redesign strategy, we've completed that. We've also been able to complete an enterprise-wide fraud risk assessment. There also is a draft fraud prevention plan, and all of these are going to the board in the next few weeks. The one where we've not achieved, Chair, and this is as at Q3, was around the lifestyle review. We can subsequently report that the board has had convened a special meeting to look at this policy amongst other critical matters. The lifestyle audit policy has now been reviewed, and we have initiated the process. So we are hoping, well, it's anticipated in the next 2 weeks or so that we should at least have completed the executive team for the lifestyle review, and then the process would be to cascade that throughout the organization. Sorry, I'm just okay. Then, in terms of the grantee applicant study, we've achieved this. We've got a draft report, and the intention behind this is for us to get a good sense from our beneficiaries about where we can make changes. What are some of the things that they're grappling with? What are they struggling with? So that when we issue the next call, we take this into account. In terms of the digital transformation, this phase 1 was not achieved, and it was a timing issue in terms of the National Treasury regulations around when was the cutoff time, and so we just missed that. It was advertised, and we are intending to issue an award before the end of March 2024. This is absolutely central to our transformation drive. The transformation drive is premised on the 3 pillars articulated by the board, and the one is around operational excellence, and we've realized that we can't do this without investing in tech. And so the base system has been evaluated, it's gone out, and we are now busy looking at developing all of the plug-in modules. In terms of the National Lottery and Sports Balls Monitoring Matrix, these have been implemented. In terms of our player protection, and we've been able to invite and educate 791 stakeholders around the harmful effects of gaming. We see this as absolutely central to social cohesion and informing communities that while, yes, you can benefit from the lotteries, there are also negative side effects like addiction that one has to that one would have to ensure that we communicate this. Then, in terms of the lottery schemes being compliant, this is a vehicle for NPOs, NPCs to generate funds, and we work with them so that they are compliant. And the target was 35% of lottery schemes compliant. We've been able to get a target of 49%. And the reason for this is that when we engage, there are lots of applicants, lots of NPOs who see this as a sustainable source of revenue, and so they are very committed to comply with the requirements. As part of the online play, we've got a know your customer strategy that was also undertaken. We are analyzing, or the data has been analyzed, and we've presented the findings in November. This obviously also then informs the work that we do going forward, especially from the advent of the new financial year. In terms of the strategic partnerships, I think we've spent a lot of time finessing the research-based model. The model itself and the policy needed substantive work because this was essentially the area where the most amount of fraud took place. And so we've had to realign the terms of reference because we actually have gone out now, I think about 2 weeks ago. I think the deadline is the 14th of March for the strategic partners to apply. And the intention is that the research-based funding is split now into 2 components. There's a planned component and an unplanned component. The unplanned component talks to things like disasters, crises, and I think just on the weekend I was with the South African Council of the Blind, and the explosion in Joburg, they said to me, you know, that they then got lots of individuals coming to them to say glass or dust or some kinds of particles went into my eye, can you please assist? And so that unplanned is intended for those, it's man-made or natural-made disasters that we can then bring in partners, onboard them upfront. And so when these things happen, it's a quicker turnaround time. We are also busy looking at the planned one, and we're hoping to advertise that, I think, in the new financial year. Then in terms of the impact assessments on small grants, this is the bulk. I think it's about 80% of our grants are small grants. And so we've needed to check and see, are we making an impact? What are the beneficiaries saying? How else can we enhance our product offering? And so this work has been done, and it's obviously also going to inform then how we move forward. Part of the corruption in the last time was that for monitoring and evaluation, it was on a sample base. Part of Minister's priorities was to say that what we need to do is we need to ensure that each and every project gets monitored. And so we've been able to complete a cumulative total of 2,384 assessments. So this is part of some of this year's, but also in prior years. And the CFO has been leading a team to say any active projects on the books, we actually need to make sure that we have gone and monitored and that we have devised reports for all of these before the financial year end. We haven't been able to achieve the structured capacity building programs. We've got a partnership with the National Youth Development Agency, and then this is ongoing work. The chairperson, Professor Bani Pachana, has also been leading engagements with the NDA and the Department of Social Development for us to also see how we can partner going forward. So in summary then, we've got 13 targets, achieved 9, not achieved 4. We are confident that, I think, bar the strategic partnerships, we would be able to achieve all of the targets come the end of March 2024. The Minister in the APP has also then outlined a number of ministerial impact targets. So the core targets around driving 40 billion of additional local output year. What we've done is we've looked at our procurement spend. So I just want to move this to the bottom. And the cumulative figures for the year show that we've been able to generate 7,111 employment opportunities through the NLC funded projects. It just gives you a breakdown of those jobs. In terms of the next one, about the 30 billion in support programs administered in totality by the DTIC group, we've been able to allocate 234 million to projects in Q3 alone. Then looking at the case studies in terms of firms, workers, entrepreneurs, we've been given a target of 200 for the year. In Q4, we've been able to profile 35 case studies, and this was on radio during the first 2 weeks of December. We've, despite us procuring an additional 12 interview slots across a number of radio stations, we've had a slight challenge in terms of implementation, where a lot of the community radio stations require the person presenting or being interviewed to be fluent in that station's specific language. And so we've also had some organizations not being available on those proposed dates. So obviously looking at this is an opportunity for us to look at our capacity building going forward. So it's not just about financial project management. We would also need to make sure that we can enable our beneficiaries to present themselves in these various fora. The next target was around 52 community outreach programs. Our target was 20. We've been able to have 32 education and awareness workshops across the 9 provinces in Q3. Our overall performance, the Minister's expectation is that we deliver 95% of the KPIs on our APP. We have been able to achieve 69.2. And this ties back to the 9 that we've achieved and the 4 that we have not. In terms of additional priorities from the Minister, One was around implementation of the SIU findings to date, and then also looking at ways in which we are complementing the work of law enforcement agencies. As at the end of Q3, we've had the draft lifestyle review, investigation and audit policy completed. It's gone, made the rounds internally. It's gone through our policy review committee. This was approved by the board, I think about 2 weeks ago. Then in terms of the, this is the old proactive funding, we now call it the research-based funding. The policy was approved, and as at the end of December, the strategic partnerships terms of reference was in place. It has gone out 2 weeks ago with a due date of the 14th of November. In terms of all of the investigations, so the minister had asked us to say, listen, go back, look and see all of the investigations that were completed. Vincent, the Chief Audit Executive and his team, they've been able to come up with a complete repository of all of the forensic investigation. He's detailed a list of the recommendations, and we are tracking those as we go along. We've also gotten 2 secondees from the SIU to look at primarily the first case around Fusion, which is our ICT, the existing ICT platform, as well as the appointment of INCE, which is a service provider. And then those are the forensic reports that have been concluded. And we are, you know, some of those we've taken, consequence management has already been meted out. So for Ndudzi, we've closed out. A number of the others are in various stages of progress and conclusion. In terms of a wider investigation beyond the old proactive funding units, here we've tasked the forensic unit to investigate all matters, including grant funding, irregularities, recruitment matters, and matters of non-compliance. And then matters relating to contracts management would be covered as part of the normal compliance SCM audits in the internal audit coverage plan. The investigation into the activities within the region. So the SIU has pointed out some areas of concern. We've also, the integrity tests have also identified risk areas for us. And so the process is to look at those areas of risk, to go and to audit to ensure that we mitigate those risks. So the unit has conducted 9 visits in the Northwest Province, 11 site visits in Mpumalanga. And during February, so this is just an update since Q3, sorry, we've also conducted 4 site visits in the Free State as part of a formal investigation. Looking at then all of the previous forensic and internal audit reports, there's 15 external investigation reports that we've been able to amass. All of these reports were stuck in offices and safes littered across the building. We've been able now to centralize those to properly record that. And that's, we've noted then that out of these 15, 2 reports, the recommendations were fully implemented, 1 was not implemented, and 12 were partially implemented. Looking at all of these recommendations from these external investigators, we are then working and seeing how we can best implement that as part of our core work. The next one, the additional priorities from the minister was review the AG findings. And so we are capturing the AG, SA, and internal audit findings. We're combining those into a single database, and we've been able to look and see which recommendations have been made and which ones we have then actually implementing this. And so this is ongoing work, and we plan on concluding this work by the end of March. Then in terms of supporting whistleblowers who were threatened or dismissed, the reparation project is central to the NLC's process of healing and of our turnaround. We've been able to look at changes in the scope, and I think this is an iterative process. We've never done this before. So we do a bit of research, we test that, we go back to the committee, they then send us back. We've been able to now, I think, finesse this, and we are then anticipating working with the SIU, looking at the communities that have been impacted by these acts of fraud and corruption to determine how best we can approach this. Additional activities that we concluded in Q3 around whistleblowers is that we've signed an MOU with the Whistleblower House as part of our commitment to making sure that we build whistleblower capacity. We've also been able to bring in external assistance to help us design and develop an anti-bribery, corruption and fraud program, which is based in recognized ISO standards. Then, in terms of assisting NGOs who are derived of support, we've been able to put together a draft report, and we are busy looking at the recommendations to implement those to ensure that we enhance our service delivery processes. Key to the turnaround is making sure that we promote transparency. The Minister has asked us to make a commitment, and we've been able to ensure that we've met that commitment by publishing all of the beneficiaries who benefit from the funds disbursed by the National Lotteries Commission. The oversight visits by the board, the chairperson has been leading a provincial engagement. We completed the Western Cape last week. And all of these all the provinces have now been visited. There are reports around this. And the intention is for the board led by the chairperson to go and talk about the role of the National Lotteries Commission and how individuals who also buy tickets, how they are also contributing to social cohesion, because a percentage of your ticket that you're buying actually goes towards supporting worthy causes. Looking then at the next section around grant funding, one of the things that we've noted is that we have had a delinquency policy and a delinquency process. It was a bit of a stuttering process, stop and start. We've now been able to establish that committee. There's a draft policy in place, and any beneficiary who has applied, who has tried to defraud the NLC, then goes obviously through a process and eventually ends up on the delinquency register. And so because our systems, we're busy building more robust systems, we are now able to track and see, no, this person has already applied, they are delinquent, and we are able to then indicate as such to anyone who applies. The next one is the fourth National Lottery and Sports Pools license. Huge amounts of work have been going on behind the scenes. The Minister's issued the RFP, an evaluation committee has been appointed. We've been able to get a total of 8 bidders who've submitted their bids on the closing date of the 3rd of Feb 2024, and that process is ongoing. The board will gets the report from the evaluation committee and then make a recommendation to the minister. Then, in terms of just some figures around the number of lottery schemes in line with the Consumer Protection Act has been investigated and closed. We've been able to do a year-on-year comparison between 2022 and 22-23 and 23-24. And then, Chair and Honourable Members, I'm not going to go into those figures. Safe to say that there has been an increase in certain aspects of this. I think if you just look year on year, there's been the total number has declined, but I think what we're seeing now is we are seeing a lot more compliant beneficiaries or NPOs than previously. So the time lag has also been shortened. In terms of the status of applications by Q3, in the charities sector, we've been able to disburse just over 197 million. 57% was allocated to the protection of the vulnerable, with an additional 33% allocated to early childhood development, and then 2% was allocated to food security. In terms of the arts, culture, and national heritage, we've been able to disperse an amount of 42 million. 82% of that was for arts, culture, cultural heritage development, and the remaining percentages were then distributed to national heritage and environment, and then schools, arts, culture, and heritage development of 8%. In terms of the sports allocation, 26 million was dispersed, and 59% of that was allocated to local, provincial, regional, and district federations. These are the job creation stats. A total of 7,111 jobs were created or retained as part of our funding in projects. For the year to date, quarter one was 2,384, quarter two, 2,604, and then quarter three was 2,123. This, together with 203 employment opportunities created or reported by the sporting federations in the second quarter, brings the total to 7,314. With Limpopo recording the highest number of jobs, 1,422, and the Northern Cape reporting the lowest number at 156 for the 3 quarters. This is breaking down the data per province and then obviously per each of our sectors. I'm not going to go into this. I think just that the monitoring and evaluation reporting assessments were conducted so we've been able to have 2,384 against a target of 2,250. The majority of the assessments were conducted within the charities sector. 315, the sports and recreation, 295, arts and culture at 169, and 11 for miscellaneous. Looking then at the M&E stats and the jobs created by the various designated youth. So we focus on people living with disabilities, youth, and adults. And we also try and ensure that we support people with disabilities, youth, women, in order to live up to our mandate of protecting the vulnerable. The total of 2,392 jobs were created for youth, 4,600 for adults, and 37 for people living with disabilities. This is a slide totaling our education and awareness in quarter three. We've been able to conduct 32 sessions, and we've been able to invite or share information with 1,521 attendees. This just gives the breakdown in terms of the various provinces. I'm going to hand over to the CFO, Ms. Tina Maharaj, just to take us through the financial performance. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Good morning, Honourable Chair, honourable members and colleagues. For the Q3, the performance of the NLC, we achieved ticket sales of 1.3 billion rand, and that was per the allocated percentage of the total lottery sales of 5.3 billion rand as of the end of December. We received 54,000 rand of fees in terms of lottery fees in societies. That remains quite a small income number on our financial statements. We've allocated 278 million rand of grants at the end of December, with actual cash disbursements of 330 million rand. And our turnaround times for the first tranche has reduced to 196 days. I think the challenge still remains with the prior grants, where we introduced additional controls to validate that those grants were paid to additional or to the correct beneficiaries, and we're working through the backlog to clear that. In terms of the new tranche, that is being paid as soon as the controls have been checked and we verified all the requirements from a financial perspective. We do estimate that we will probably close the year with grant allocations of just over 700 million rand. So there has been quite a significant jump in the last 3 months. I think the distributing agencies are working to try and push that grant number and approve as many grants as possible before financial year end. In terms of our statement of financial performance, I think I've already spoken to our share of ticket sales, unclaimed and expired prize money. We've received 84 million from that. and 7.9 million from interest from the participants trust. And we've also received some additional fees from the lottery, the publication of the RFP document from the lottery license. I think from a revenue perspective, there has been an increase due to the favorable interest rate environment, which we are still benefiting from as the NLC due to the cash sitting in our bank account. And we have total revenue of 1.6 billion rand in the organization at the end of December. In terms of our expense side, as I said, we've allocated grants of 253 million as of December, and we're expecting that to increase to about 700 million by the end of March. Our employee costs are 218 million rand, and that is slightly behind budget, and that's due to some of the vacancies that have not been filled in the organization. And that's due to the fact that we are implementing an entire modernization strategy and relooking at our operational model and what is the best fit organizational structure for the NLC. In terms of goods and services, we've currently spent 139 million against a budget of 228 million. There's been significant savings on our goods and services, and this is due to the fact that we have been relooking at all contracts, all irregular expenditure or contracts that were irregular have been cancelled in the organization. And there's a large number of projects underway that are busy or just finalize the procurement processes. So we'll see an uptick in that number in the new financial year as we embed the revised operational processes within the organization. And we closed with a net surplus of 697 million rand at the end of December. If we look at our statement of financial position, I don't think there's anything significant to report. I think our balance sheet still remains exceptionally strong. We closed with total assets of 3.7 billion rand, which is slightly higher than March of 3.2, but that is due to the fact that we haven't dispersed all of the grants as yet. So we'll see that number slightly declining as we head towards March and we expend on the grant allocations. Thank you very much. I'll hand back to Commissioner.
Thank you very much. I think then just in conclusion, we've been able to report a steady progression in terms of the returning the NLC towards its core mandate and restoring both trust and credibility in the work that we do. As part of this rebuilding and restoration, we've launched the new NLC fraud hotline. We've also been able to conduct a fraud awareness session with all of our staff. We've invited the Whistleblower House to come and talk to colleagues internally about protected disclosures, and we had this in December. All of these are part of our plan and our process to address and mitigate fraudulent activities. We continue working with law enforcement agencies. I think this afternoon there's a meeting at the NPA offices. It's ourselves, the SIU, and the NPA to look and see how we can fast track some of these matters and if we can assist in any particular way. I've already mentioned that we have gone out for the 4th National Lottery and the Sports Balls license. And the proposals, we've received 8 proposals as at the 3rd of February, and the process is underway. We are, as part of the continuous improvement work, we monitor and we address all of the AG findings, especially the ones that the AGSA flagged in our 22-23 audit. And so while we recognize that we still have a long road to go and that the challenges are quite significant, we are confident. We've got a really solid team in the room that we are sailing the ship in the right direction. And then with the guidance and the leadership of the board, we would be able to achieve these. I think it's a bit of a long road, but we are all very committed to making sure that we turn this institution around. Chair, honourable members, that is then the end of my presentation. I thank you. The rest are just some case studies. Chair, I'm not sure, I'll pause here if you'd like me to go through some of the case studies, because I think these are also quite important just in terms of showcasing the work that we're doing, just to get a visual picture, but I'll be guided by you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. Tell me, how many case studies do we have? I just want to check time.
I think there's about 4 case studies, Chair.
Okay, no, take the committee through it. We have enough time. Thank you.
Sorry, I think there's slightly more. There's 7, Chair, but let me just take you through. So this is just us at the Centurion Hospice. It's a society lottery draw inspection. So we go out. The Centurion Hospice is registered as a society lottery. We go out when they are doing this, when they're conducting their draw, to make sure that it is transparent and fair. And then, oh, sorry, my mouse has disappeared. We also have we've also had a stakeholder engagement, the presidential imbizo in Potchefstroom. This is just the team participating in this, sharing information about the National Lottery. We've also had a stakeholder engagement, Master End Records in Mpumalanga. We visited this, and this is a music studio for aspiring artists. They provide recording and technical support to the music community, and is also available for individuals, either at a group or an individual hiring arrangement. And it really supports music development within the Mpumalanga area. This is the, just do this. Sorry, I can't see this. The inspection of lottery terminals. So we go out on a monthly basis. We go and check retailers. We look at the machines, if they're in good working order, to make sure that there's nothing untowards about this. There are some a range of compliance measures that we also check to also ensure that, you know, there's no underage play, and that we also make sure that there's no excessive play, so that we protect all participants who engage in the National Lottery. This is the Jackson Cassidy Youth Development Cultural Exchange Centre in the Northern Cape. It's a theatre. Our chairperson visited them today as part of meeting with stakeholders and looking and determining to see how we can best assist in terms of our support provided. Another stakeholder engagement, this is in the Northern Cape. This is also part of the chairperson's visits to actually engage with stakeholders, and then to hear on a very practical level, how are we assisting, how can we improve, and also the chair also then meets with the staff and finds out if there are any issues and how can we best support individuals in this regard. Chair, I think that's those are the, sorry, there should have been just a last slide indicating that concludes the presentation. Thank you so much, Chair and honourable members.
Thank you very much, Commissioner, and your team. Can I now check whether Prof. Pichana's on the platform? Committee Secretary, can you check? Okay, let me check myself.
I'm muted, Chair. If you couldn't answer you, I was muted. I'll check now, Chair.
I see it's not on the platform.
Not on the platform, Chair.
Okay, no, that's fine.
Yeah.
So I think we have enough time to take questions from the committee and responses before we take the presentation from SABS. Committee members, can we have interaction with the National Lotteries Commission presentation and report? Okay. Honourable Bergman.
Honourable 3, Chair. Madam Matia.
Madam Matia.
Mr. Muyani.
Okay. In that order, Honourable Bergman.
Thank you very much, Chair. Sorry, it might get a little bit noisy where I am. I'm trying to get as quiet as possible. Thanks again.
We can hear you. It's fine.
Good. Chair, thanks very much for the presentation, and again, welcome to the Commissioner. And I know that SABS's loss is the NLC's gain. In terms of program 1, the lifestyle audits, we seem to skim over them a little bit too quickly. Now, I think that's been a source of a lot of frustration in the sense that we've, both in the SIU presentation and in last presentation, we said that we were making that compulsory and that we are going to make sure that everyone was going to comply with those lifestyle audits. So I'm not sure why people would not want to have themselves put forward for a lifestyle audit, especially for this, for working at an organization like the Lotto. So I'd want to know, if they don't put themselves forward for an audit, what are the consequences, and why is this a problem for the KPIs? What we should be doing as a KPI, we should be saying that we want to have 100% of our staff and top management lifestyle audited by a certain date, and that should be the KPI. In terms of the number of lottery schemes that were compliant, 35% is low, and then going up to 49% in Q3, that's still very low to even celebrate. Where does the actual checking start? Because when we had the SIU presenting, it seems like they were the ones that did the deed search, and they were the ones that had to do the internet search at looking at the who the directors of the company were, if they were linked to any of the family. When the people from the lottery could employ those sort of programs within their own company, which could do the compliance checking there and then, and basically, stomp out a lot of the hard slog in terms of trying to find the compliance right there and then. And I'm just sad that so many years down the line and so many investigations down the line, we're still not doing that. And then sticking with the SIU, it came to our attention that there's only one prosecutor from the NPA, and that's just been alluded to again by Mrs. Goltz. What strikes me as worrisome is that since 2020, this very same prosecutor has started prosecuting one case in 2020, and that same case still hasn't been finalized. Now, it sounds like there's some real bona fide cases that have been handed to this prosecutor that have either been declined or have been starting to be investigated, have not even reached finality since 2020. Now, what's the NLC's experience with this, with handing over to the SIU or to the NPA? Are they finding that there's an obstacle in the person? And if so, have they requested a rotation, or have they requested that an additional resource be employed to assist them in their investigations? Because, how do we know that, we don't have a compromised candidate? And I'm not defaming anyone in this regard, but we do have to be realistic in this climate that with these slow investigations, or where you handed a bona fide case, that's, these are dragging on for so long. And then in terms of the investigations that have taken place, I must applaud Ms. Goltz for what seems to be a purge, and Professor Pitaniano, what seems to be a purge of head office and a clear out of head office. I know that the provinces were also a bit of a headache, so I'd just like to know the progress. Have we moved on to the provinces, and if so, how many people in the provinces on a top management level are we investigating? Have we finalized any of these investigations? How many have been suspended? And in terms of the people that we are investigating in the old board, have we finalized any of those investigations? Thanks very much, Chair.
Thank you, Honourable Burton. Honourable Sitting.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, I've been having some connectivity issues, so I'll also keep my camera off. I just have a comment and perhaps two questions. And firstly, just want to thank Mrs. Scholes for the presentation. I think she's going to be developing a reputation of being a turnaround specialist. Having been seconded to SABS, where she needed to turn around an entity that was certainly problematic, and is now with the National Lotteries Commission. And so thus far, we want to just commend Mrs. Scholes and her team on a job that seems to be producing the required fruit. My two questions, Chair. One has to do with the percentage of jobs or percentage allocation, fund allocation towards applicants submitting a request for funding, but goes towards, and that particular funding goes to more towards job creation. And understanding the challenges that we have in South Africa with regards to the huge unemployment rate, particularly amongst the youth, what focus is there, and what percentage of the lottery's funding goes towards job creation? Because in my opinion, surely this should be a key focus. And I understand that there are other competing interests, which is like education and health and sports and so on. But it would be interesting to hear what percentage goes where. And then secondly, in the SIU presentation, there was an indication that the first 3 phases of investigation yielded corruption to the tune of some 900 million or close to 1 billion rand. And the presenter, the SIU, indicated that there may be, and there possibly is going to be, a 4th phase. So can Mrs. Scholes indicate whether there is indeed going to be a 4th phase of investigation, and what the quantity or scope of that investigation will be, if indeed there is? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honourable Thring. Honourable Malamacha.
Thank you, Chair. Let me take this opportunity and welcome the presentation. Good efforts. You will understand that it's not just an institution where everything was good and well. There has been some efforts that must really be appreciated, that to stabilize the instability which was there. One at some stage would call an early Christmas of every year. It was not going to be just an easy task. However, the following, comrades, Honorable Chair, remains a note of some sort, that one, if you don't achieve, especially on the lifestyle policy review, the community out there still saying, we see all these things and we are not leading by example, because this is where people were looking to change their lifestyle in the communities, and people are still seeing them doing the same. And now here we are reporting that we are not necessarily living up to this policy where we want to conduct lifestyle of every person in the institution. So it's a concern that really the committee must tell us what is their strategy to fast track and complete this, so that it be known that in that institute, entry point is lifestyle audit. The restructuring in your internal is much more of your internal. I want to say, for by now, we must be no longer talking about the restructuring of the institution. People want to see new beneficiaries of this institution. When can we see new beneficiaries receiving this assistance? And whilst we are there, applying your monitoring and evaluation in a public, if not transparent way, that when a new institution being sponsored, you are able to visit them on suitable times that will justify that there's no any irregularity. People are no longer interested on knowing what went wrong. People will be very much happy to see what has been prevented from going wrong, so that we don't be much complaining and much reporting on negative things. We are saying we've been able to manage to prevent this. This would have caused the institution and other beneficiaries to come, because the collapse of this affect a number of NGOs, affect a number of affect a number of institutes that have got hope here, Honorable Chair. The other one is the digital transformation. Talk to us and tell us, what is your strategy to fast track this? Because here we are dealing with highly educated people who are very digital orientated. And if you are not moving with that speed, it's very easy for them to manipulate you. And when you arrive there, they are gone. So these are very critical aspects that really need to be achieved so that you are up there before they come there. This issue, Chair, people are no longer tolerant enough about the processes. When can we really see people who looted NLC go into jail? When can this just happen? Come and say SIU, NPA, everything. Convene one strong meeting, center point, talk language of action. Because all of us, we know that actions without result is inconsequential. And it's too long that we've been willing to see all this. I think with those, Chairperson, my contribution is of saying people want to see NLC working and having impact in their life. They know all what happened, and the time given to the new board and everybody in the NLC is now enough to say, we now need action. Action in delivering, action of what happened. This now is well-shaped. Can it really produce result? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Malamacha. Honorable Mbiani.
Chairperson, thank you very much for the opportunity. Let me also welcome the presentation by the Commissioner and the CFO. Chairperson, also want to welcome the strategies that were employed by the commissioners and the board in terms of establishing a delinquent committee, and also the verification of all projects conducted before payments made. Chair, I think the speaker before me alluded to the 4 points that were not achieved in terms of their target, the structural capacity building and also the lifestyle audit, being the digitalization of the drive and also the research-based funding. Chair, I just wanted to check, in terms of the allocation currently, what informs the allocation charities, sports, art and culture? It differs from 30% to 27%, 23%. I just wanted to check that. Also, Chairperson, as a clarity-seeking question, the turnaround time in terms of responses to the NPCs that they might have requested for funding. Chair, I'm not so sure. Let me check with the CFO, because I heard in the presentation by December they allocated around 200 million rand. And now in 2 weeks' time is saying she will be distributing 500 million in 2 weeks' time before the financial year end. So I just want to check there whether there's any capacity that is being employed so that you are able to distribute this large amount of money before the year end, because the year end is in 2 weeks' time now. Chair, the 234 assessment and monitoring, yes, we welcome that, but we still need to see more in terms of the structural capacity and also the partnership with other vehicles like NDA, National Development Agency, in terms of outcome-based outreach program. And also we welcome the publishing of all beneficiaries so that we understand as who benefited from this program. Chair, the last one is the issue of the bid submission. When are they closing the processes? Because we understood that the process started long time and it ended in February, I think the first week of February. And where is the process now moving forward in terms of adjudication, also the evaluation? Thank you very much, Chairperson, for the opportunity.
Thank you very much. I believe the chairperson is on the platform, but we'll take the responses first from Commissioner and her team, and then before you step off the platform, I'll give over to the chairperson. Commissioner.
Thank you very much, Chair and honourable members. I'm not alone, Chair and honourable members. I have a very committed and very dedicated team. I'm going to ask Mr. Vincent Jones, I think, just to answer the lifestyle audits. Anashni is going to answer the ones that are on the grant funding. In Swallow, there's 2 around the capacity building, the M&E assessments, and then the CFO will come in. So, Chair, let me just hand over to these various individuals. Thank you. Yes.
Good morning, Honourable Chair and Honourable Members. Just in respect of the question regarding the lifestyle audits. So initially, what happened is we included that in our APP target to initiate the lifestyle audits. We then embarked on a process to start developing the policy to conduct lifestyle audits in the NLC. Because we are going to deal with all levels of staff in the NLC, we had to follow a proper policy development process and consult with all the relevant NLC staff members, because we will be requesting confidential information and we need to follow the correct process. The board has approved the policy and we have started with the implementation of that policy. We are going to do it in a phased approach. We have already issued the lifestyle disclosure questionnaires to all EXCO members, and we will, as the first phase, focus on EXCO, the board, and the distributing agency members, and then finalize a report regarding the outcome, and then we'll go to the low levels towards Q1. So there was a bit of a delay in the implementation, but the NLC is committed. We did get buy-in from the union as well, that this is an important process and everybody is on board. And that's and then in respect of the question regarding the delays at the NPA in terms of prosecutions, what I can also report is that my division has been interacting with the Major General at the Hawks, in terms of all the cases that the NLC has reported to the Hawks. And they are also looking into a program or to establish a project to specifically look at all NLC SABS cases, to also consider proper syndicates that are out there, and that we have proper collaboration in terms of sharing of information. So we have started building that relationship with the NPA, with the Hawks. And then as the Commissioner indicated with regards to the NPA, we are also meeting with them this afternoon in respect of what we can do to fast track some of these investigations. We've also communicated to staff members at the NLC that they need to participate and give their full cooperation when they are approached by law enforcement agencies to provide affidavits. And we have had some staff members that have submitted affidavits in respect of NPA matters. So hopefully there will be some progress, and at the next portfolio committee meeting we can provide an update. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much.
Good morning, Chair, honourable members, as well as the Chair of the NLC. I'm going to be responding on the questions posed around the grant funding. And according to my records, the first of which was an indication of the percentage of jobs that we actually contribute towards either retaining or creating in terms of the NLDTF funding. I think, Chair, we have marked this particular question and we are hoping to build on it from a reporting perspective to ensure that more substantial statistics, I beg your pardon, do come through in subsequent periods. Suffice to say that as it stands, it is minimal. It's based on the allocations and the 7,000 jobs that were created or retained from Q1 to Q3. We're looking at about a 0.25 percentage. I think in addition, Chair, what we'd like to add is, given that NLC funding is predominantly project-based, we would have to ensure that we do a deeper dive in order to extract this core information at the end of the day. I can say with confidence, Chair, that this has been earmarked in the new process, and therefore going forward, we will be better placed to provide well-substantiated statistics in this particular area. The subsequent question that I have on my end, Chair, relates to how is it that we will be onboarding new beneficiaries and how they're going to be receiving assistance. I think in respect to that, we have altered our model to a large degree, wherein we don't allow an applicant to walk through our doors and simply lodge an application with the NLC. The process is relatively robust in the sense that we have what we call CLOs, or client liaison officers, that peruse the application for compliance before we actually receipt it into our environment, to ensure that we are, at the end of the day, capacitating these beneficiaries so as to enable them to leapfrog the process to access this particular funding. In addition to that, the question in terms of validating these NPOs, for the 23-24 financial year, we onboarded a new process that we've called the inspectorate. So in addition to the post visits, we've also ensured that all these projects or these applicants that apply to us are visited to ensure existence amidst other criteria that we do verify in our inspectorate process. Chair, the last question I marked in relation to grant funding was what informs the allocations. This is actually regulated. So charities receives the largest percentage of the funding, which is 47%. This is followed by the sports sector, which receives 28% of the grant. The arts sector receives 23%, and miscellaneous with 2%. So that is technically what informs how the budget is distributed across these particular funding sectors. And of course, very intrinsically linked with that, Chair, it goes without saying that if you look at the allocations from the beginning of the financial year to date, we've allocated 352 million to the charity sector, which, like I said, receives the lion's share of 47%. 96 million has been allocated to the sports sector. This is followed by 159 million that's been allocated to the arts sector, and of course 10 million, which constitutes the 2% that's been allocated to the charity sector. Chair, on this particular point, I think we have gotten to a point where we need to, if anything, have conversations around the table in terms of probably revisiting not just the sectors, but the allocations as well, which of course cannot be undertaken without proper research, which we will commit to doing before sitting down to make recommendations on the disbursements per sector. Thank you, Chair. That's all from my end.
Thank you.
Good morning, Chairperson and honorable members.
Good morning.
Dinzwalo Nguna, the Executive for Regulatory Compliance. I'll be providing responses on the questions posed on regulatory compliance, monitoring and evaluation, together with capacity building. With regards to the question that was posed on compliance lottery schemes, this relates to fundraising lotteries, or what we call society lotteries, as referred to in the Lotteries Act. And they are not in relation to grant funding activities where there would be funding allocated to non-profit organizations. What we aim to achieve with compliance in that regard is that when non-profit organizations apply to the NLC to conduct society lotteries for fundraising, there's compliance requirements that are required, which include that they give an indication of how the tickets will be sold, what is the value of the tickets, and also what is the money, what the money will be intended for use, together with the submission of annual returns, which would comprise of audited financial statements, wherein that non-profit organization that would have conducted that lottery scheme would report on funds raised, prizes that were paid out, administrative costs that were covered, together with how much was ultimately used as part of funds that would assist the nonprofit organization to fulfill its mandate. So in that case, we realized that there was slow uptake with society lotteries from nonprofit organizations, as they heavily rely on grant funding. And with the compliance requirements for registering society lotteries, it's quite complicated, as it's included in the Act and the regulations, and we try and simplify the application process. So we would take the nonprofit organization through the application process, assess the applications, inform them of the reporting requirements once they start selling those lottery tickets, and how they should maintain their record keeping, so that we're able to ensure that there is integrity in those society lotteries, and they are not for profit, but they are intended to support activities of the nonprofit organization. So on the point that was reported on society lottery schemes for compliance purposes, this is not related to cases that are being investigated by the SIU on the NLC's grant funding activities. The question on monitoring and evaluation, and we do appreciate the point from the honorable member that this must be public, and we need to be transparent with monitoring and evaluating of projects that we fund. The NLC has taken a stance that once we allocate funding to an organization, 6 months after the payment of that allocation, we conduct monitoring and evaluation to monitor the projects, look at what was allocated, how the funds were used, and ensure that they report accordingly. As required by the grant agreement, they are expected to submit progress reports when either the first 6 months of the allocation has passed, or they've spent 75% of the funds that have been allocated to them. The monitoring and evaluation team has been in engagement with the internal audit and forensic unit, wherein we've also picked up red flags. For example, if an organization doesn't submit progress reports, that could be an indication that the money is not being used for its intended purpose. The visiting of the projects as well has proven quite beneficial, in that we're able to check whether the project is actually being implemented or not. So we have instituted those measures to improve on our monitoring, and if there are any red flags that could point towards misappropriation or improper use of the funding allocated, those matters are referred to the investigation unit for further investigation. On the structured capacity building, yes, it is noted that as much as we would fund organizations through grant funding that would apply for funding, there needs to still be capacity building, particularly on the issues of financial management, reporting requirements that are required by the NPOs to comply with the grant agreement, and hence the partnerships that were mentioned, to ensure that we not only allocate the funding, but we also capacitate the nonprofit organizations. We're looking at areas such as social entrepreneurship, where we would have NPOs in the arts and culture sector that might have initiatives that can be turned into enterprises where they can sell their products or their whatever they would make, arts and crafts. So it is that capacity building initiative that we've identified as a priority, and the board is quite keen to ensure that we implement this accordingly to maximize access to funding, but also capacitate the grant recipients in ensuring that they are able to manage their finances accordingly. Thank you, Honorable Chairperson and members. I'll hand over to the CFO.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tinswalo. Honorable Chair, through you, just to address Honorable Mboyani's question around the grant allocations for the year. So just to clarify, so a total of 278 million rand was allocated in terms of grants as at the end of December. Where we currently standing, Honorable Mboyani, we're currently sitting at 616 million rand as of today, the 12th of March, and we forecast that this will grow to 700 million by the end of March. And the reason for the spike in the numbers due to the additional interventions that we've introduced within the NLC to try and push the grant allocations. I just want to highlight that this does not mean grants distributed. It's just the allocation of grants which have been approved for distribution. And some of the additional controls that we have implemented is basically embedding the inspected function within the organization and ensuring that all projects are reviewed or the pre-adjudication review is done so that they can move forward to the adjudication process. I think the DA members that we do currently have on board are very committed, and they've been spending a significant amount of hours trying to push these grant allocations for us, just to try and ensure that we eat into some of the allocation that we intended for this current financial year. So it is achievable because we are currently sitting on over 600 million rand with 2 weeks to go. So I think all efforts have been focused on trying to push that number for year in and approve as many grants as possible moving into the new financial year. Thank you very much. I'll hand over to our CIO.
Yeah, good morning,
Hi,
Chair and members.
Good morning.
I'm just going to address the issue of the dealing with sophisticated communities on modernization. I think I'm glad to inform the Chair and members that for the NLC, what we have done as part of strengthening our partnership with other state organs, we are going to interconnect the NLC environment with what you call an API. It's mainly an online interface with CPIC, the DSD, the Department of Home Affairs, SARS. We've had engagement with the Department of Education, and the intention is to do validation and verification, which must be an instant verification of not only beneficiaries, but even our stakeholders through suppliers and staff in general. And again, the tightening of dealing with modernization is the issue around pre-inspection. I think my colleague Anash spoke about prior to us even evaluating or adjudicating any project, it has to be subjected to a pre-inspection. So what will happen is physical visit to a site, and we have added the GIS element. As you know, that some of the projects, if it's infrastructure, we need to take advantage of applications where you can do remote monitoring through GIS. I think those are some of the areas to deal with this sophistication of people doing other things that are not allowed in process. Again, in addition, we have enhanced and we're going to tighten our internal controls on any application that is received within the NLC. And what it means, it's more about tightening the segregation of duties for our staff members when they are dealing with applications, and even to make sure that there are check and balances of an application as it moves. Because we know that as in any environment, sophistication can be done by changing names and changing IDs, but that kind of activity will be managed even through the workflow that is being developed. And in conclusion, I think we spoke about sophistication. I think, Chair and members, we also need to be mindful that there's digital literacy that is required for our communities in rural areas, even townships and urban. So through our capacity building, as Anash has indicated, we will be doing those kind of digital literacy, because the minute you modernize, you automate your processes, it's important that you don't leave your stakeholders behind, because technology might appear to be more of the elite, but digital literacy, it's something that is embedded in our capacity building. So in a nutshell, the modernization, dealing with sophistication, is tightening our internal control and extending the partnership with other state organs within government. Thank you very much, Chair and members. Oh,
Thank
it's
you.
Motibi, the CIO of NLC. Thank you. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you.
Thanks, Motibi. Thank you, Chair. Honourable members. Honourable Bergman, I think in response to your question regarding the NPA, I don't have a response for that. What we do is we ensure that we engage very regularly with both the SIU and the NPA, and I'm not aware of the capacity and what's been allocated. Honourable Thring, I think the point that you've made about job creation, we are cognizant that we report into an economic ministry, and I think as recently as last week, the Chair was also asking us about what are we doing to ensure we facilitate and we fast-track job creation. So that is something that is currently on the table. We've reviewed as an EXCO team the new funding focus areas on Friday, and I think looking at areas where particularly youth employment, we've asked the colleagues to go back and have a rethink and to revise that, because I think we can do a lot more with what we have. So that is work that is currently on the table and in progress, and I'm confident in the next meeting, maybe not the next one, the following one, we'll be able to give solid feedback in that space. I fully support, Honourable Malamecha, your question about when people are going to jail, and we are committed to working with these entities. It's not within our mandate to prosecute. What we are doing is we are looking at other areas where the SIU, if it's outside of their mandate, we report cases to both SABS and the Hawks, and we follow these up. We've got a register. We report this to our oversight committees, our audit and risk committee, and then Vincent and his team regularly ensures that they track this. Honourable Thring, apologies, you had asked a question about the SIU and the different phases. I'm not aware of that. I do recall in the last presentation to the Portfolio Committee, they did indicate that they were in the process, or they have intentions of having a different phase. I think that's within the purview of the SIU for them to look at that. Some of the discussions we've had have been around procurement, but Vincent and his team have also looked at those areas and have started investigations. I think then I need to see, there was a question around, I think it was Honourable Bergman, your question around, what else are we doing? How do we know that, individuals are still internally? So we've done integrity testing. This has been a first-line risk indicator. We're following up with lifestyle audits. We've revised our ethics policy, and that's going through the policy approval processes currently. We are also working through CETA to adopt the DPSA's e-disclosure framework. This will enable us to have, access to a system for disclosures. And I think obviously with constant communication around this, we would be able to ensure that the focus within the NLC is one which is ethical and which is purpose-driven. Then the last question that I think is around the RFP. This is a process that the boards is managing. There's a dedicated timeline. We do know that the current operator's term ends in May 2025, and so we've worked backwards in terms of giving the board a timetable for both the evaluation team that's currently underway. The board will then come in and adjudicate. The board then hands a report over to the minister, and then the minister makes the announcement. There's a period in which there's the transition for the license, the negotiation of the license, apologies, comes first. And then obviously the fourth operator would also want to get the financial closures required, and then we start the transition. So that's the broad process, with the intention that the 1st of June next year, 2025, we have a new operator in progress. Chair, I think that's it on my side. I just wanted to acknowledge our chairperson, Professor Barney Pichana, and Ms. Beryl Ferguson in the meeting. Thank you. I'll hand back over to you.
Thank you very much. I think you have dealt with most of the matters raised by the committee members. In our last meeting with the NPA and the SIU, at the end of the meeting, towards the end of the meeting, I should say, the NPA made a very worrying statement saying that there are still some rotten eggs or people who are guilty of malfeasance who are still in the employ of the NLC. And we would like to see, all efforts being made to flush those people out. Okay. Board Chair, if you could just make some concluding remarks. We tried to get you, but you were not on the platform for introductory remarks. Prof. Pichana. Prof, you need to unmute, or can the committee secretary unmute, Prof?
Am I unmuted now? Good morning, colleagues, Honorable Chair and Honorable members of the Portfolio Committee. I wish to acknowledge my colleague, Mrs. Beryl Ferguson, who is in the meeting, and Commissioner Jody Scholes and her executive team, who have been assisting us. I've had the privilege of viewing the presentation by the Commissioner before the meeting, and I do apologize, Chair and honorable members, that I wasn't able to link in on time. It was quite a struggle. I was quite relieved, Honorable Thring, that you went through. You also go through these problems of not being able to link at the time you want to. But I'm just going to give a very quick overview, Chair and members. The first thing I need to say is that as we've been doing consistently, we are rebuilding the National Lotteries Commission. And the work of rebuilding the National Lotteries Commission takes with it a commitment and endeavor to transformation. At the core of that transformative task is institutional culture and institutional change. It is fair to say, Honorable Chair and members, that it is not as easy as we might have thought at some point to do so. All the efforts at transformation we've been doing have not been without obstacles. And at the time and in the manner in which we operate, we try to bring everybody along with us. Whilst we are busy investigating, we're also trying to build the organization. We bring in new people into the organization, and for which we are very, very appreciative of the work that colleagues in the board and the commissioner are doing in attracting a new quality of people at a senior level into the organization. The danger, though, that we're finding is that much of this is producing a demoralization from other levels of staff in the organization, and it's something that we cannot ignore because I think it is a very, very important matter. That, Chair, is to say that we are busy rebuilding the organization right now. We are in the process of looking at the policies and reviewing the policies of the organization. That's what we are engaged with at the moment. And at the same time, we are trying to make sure that we look at all the areas of concern around distribution and research-based or research-based funding and everything that has gone into it. We don't want to ignore that. We cannot ignore it, but we're working on it at the moment. In general, I think that the organization is moving in a very, very good and confident way, and we are not deterred by the difficulties that we are facing, both at the executive management level and at the level of the board. I am delighted that the commissioner has briefed the committee on the status of the fourth license that is underway at the moment, and gives confidence to the portfolio committee that indeed the process is on course, and we do expect to complete this. The wonderful thing, which the commissioner did not say, is that there's been quite a positive and a very good uptake on the applications and submissions that we have received, much more than we have had in previous years. Previously, we've had 2 or 3. This year, we've got about 8 submissions that we are looking at. That does mean that there's more work in it, but also it does mean that we have at least an opportunity to spread the manner in which the work is being done. The minister is very keen that this fourth lottery operating license is used alongside with the government's commitment to a state lottery, hopefully at the end of this lottery. And we are hoping to use this opportunity to try to build the possibility of a state lottery as well. It is important that we put that on the table. Chair, previously, I made a statement to this committee, and my statement was indicating steps that the board was taking and the determination that we have to deal with the lagging issues that we have. Through further advice, the matters that I raised are with our legal advisors, and the legal advisors are looking at the question of delinquent directors, and what kind of approach we should take to that. We're looking at, we've been advised that seeing that there is already underway processes for criminal action against delinquent directors and executives, there probably is no way except to support the work that is already undertaken. And as part of that statement, we are monitoring the NPA and what is going on. And we have, in fact, our lines open to the NPA, and our interest in it, and indeed not just interest, our desire for these matters to be expedited is well known to the NPA. So we've got a line open to the NPA, and we are in conversation about how best we can move. We are looking forward, and I've been waiting eagerly for what I thought was a promise from the NPA, that within days of their appearance at this committee, some progress will be made, some arrests were possible. We haven't had those arrests, at least I'm not aware of. And we would love to see some action of that nature actually taking place. So Chair, we are saying that from now onwards, I'm very delighted that on the eve of the general elections, we've had an opportunity to appear before this portfolio committee of the 5th administration, if I'm correct, and we are quite conscious that there are major changes that may happen, but I want to give this assurance that the work of the National Lotteries Commission remains, and the commitment of the board and the executive staff, we are all at one in advancing that work, whatever happens at any other level of the government of our country. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Comrade Chair. Sorry, not Comrade Chair, Chair of the Board, Prof. Pitiana. I think that concludes our interaction with the National Lotteries Commission. I want to say that for the record, the Portfolio Committee, all speakers who have spoken today in response to the presentation have spoken about the lifestyle audits. We want to request the board to ensure that every effort is put in place to make sure that the board and all staff members are subjected to a lifestyle audit, because it's one of the ways in which we can flush out whatever wrongdoing or perpetrators of wrongdoing is still present on the staff or anywhere else in the organization. So with that, thank you, Prof, for leading this team and doing the good work that you have done so far. And we want to to ask you to double your efforts, if that's possible, as we rise as the sixth administration, to make sure that we take care of the most vulnerable in our society. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Comrade Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Committee members of this committee, we're going to have a break until 2:15. I know it's shorter than usual, and then we'll take the SABS presentation. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, committee members who now reconvene our meeting. Can I hand over to the board chair, Dr. Malinga, for opening remarks before we go to the acting CEO. Dr. Malinga.
Thank you very much, Chair and honorable members. We're delighted to be here as the CEO puts up the slides. We are delighted to come and report to yourselves. And before we start, I wish to acknowledge other board members who are also on the platform. This is Dr. Nandipa Madiba, who's the chair of the Human Capital and Social and Ethics Committee, as well as Ms. Deidre Penfold, who's the chair of the Audit and Risk Committee. As indicated, Chair, we're delighted to come and present our report to the committee. And you'll recall that the last time we were here, Dr. Bisun was the acting CEO, and he had been acting for a year, and his term came to an end in January of this year. And we'd like to take this opportunity to thank him for the sterling work that he did as the acting CEO of the SABS for 1 year. And the board took a decision to rotate the acting role, and we appointed since the 1st of February, Mr. Lungelo Ntobongwana, who's actually our Chief Operating Officer, and we have full confidence in him. And indeed, in the time that he's been acting together with his management, he's been doing a good job. And we want to update the committee on the process of the recruitment of the CEO. This is a process that we started last year, and indeed would have wanted to, by this time, have concluded it. But there's been challenges in the recruitment process, but we are at a stage whereby we're hoping that by the end of this month at least, would have run the last round of our recruitment process and be in a position to make a recommendation to the minister. And so we want to assure you of the understanding that we have of the agency of concluding this process. And we are committing ourselves to at least come to that stage at the end of this month to be able to put some names to the minister, possibly next month or so. The board embarked on a strategy in December last year. And so this is a board that has started its role, as you know, in 2022. And we met for the first time to formulate a new strategy for the SABS. As you are well aware, we have been in a process of a turnaround for a couple of years under the administration process. And since the time at which we took over in December of 2022, we embarked on a process of stabilizing the institution. And indeed, when we met in December, we took a decision that we are phasing out the turnaround approach, but starting a new phase of repositioning of the South African Bureau of Standards, and now focusing on how do we grow it as we move forward. And so you will begin to be seeing some of these plans that we have, and indeed the corporate plan that it has been submitted that will take effect 1st of April this year is informed by these new plans that we have formulated together with the executive and management, and that we believe will stabilize and grow the South African Bureau of Standards. And so our reporting going forward will be along those lines. Now, coming back to the Q3 that we're reporting for, and the CEO will go into detail talking about our performance, but it's suffice to indicate that we have achieved 64% of the targets that we were set for Q3. Yes, indeed, this has been a slight decrease, but we will explain where we've fallen short and what gaps are going to be closed as we are in this final quarter of the financial year. Year to date, we have an overall achievement of 69%, and we want to improve this going forward by the close of this year. I wish to assure you as members, honorable members, that as a board we're committed to exercising the necessary oversight of the South African Bureau of Standards. We understand its role, its importance for our country, for its standards, for its competitiveness, for our industry, and we are committed to making sure that it fulfills its legislated mandate. With that, I want to hand over to the CEO, together with his management executives, to present to us the Awakotala report for Q3. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Malinga. Mr. Ntobongwana, can we check whether we can get this presentation on slide mode? I'm not sure if it's possible. I see this is a PDF and not a PowerPoint.
Okay. Good morning, Chair, and good morning to the honorable members. Let me get the PowerPoint presentation so that then I can be able to fly that. I'll just be a few seconds. Thanks.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, there we go. It's starting.
Thanks, Chair. And once again, good morning to you and to the honorable members. As indicated, my name is Lungelo Ntobongwana, the acting CEO at SABS. With me, Chair, are the members of the executive committee and some of the colleagues that were instrumental in putting together the presentation. I'll start by introducing the Chief Financial Officer, Ms. Khulufelo Masoga, and also introducing the Acting Chief Operations Officer, Mr. Katima Temba. We've got an apology from Mr. Lizo Makele, who is the Chief Corporate Services Officer, because of a conflicting priority that he also had to look at. Together with us, Chair, is the Company Secretary, Mr. Charles Hwale, and also Mbodi, who is the specialist within the Strategy Development Department, Mbodi Manaka. In terms of the outline of the presentation, Chair, we'll start by talking to the mandate and how do you collaborate with the rest of the institutions that are within the DDIC ministry. We then cover the non-financial performance results for Q3, followed by the performance results. And we'll then go to the contribution that SABS has committed to the DDIC group output targets. We then showcase the case studies that we have undertaken in Q3, and then have a detailed view of all the operational areas, but in terms of the summary of what has been achieved in Q3, the stakeholder engagements that we have conducted, and also the conclusion in the presentation. In terms of the mandate, Chair, we are a member of the DDIC, and as an SABS, we are established, or it has been established in terms of the Standards Act of 1945, and we derive our mandate from the Act itself. Our mandate entails that we develop, promote, and maintain the South African national standards. We promote quality with respect to commodities and products and services. But more importantly, we continue to provide conformity assessment services. But we don't do that alone. We work together with other three institutions, the National Regulator for Compulsory Specifications, NRCS, more so with regards to the development of the standards, and also how these standards are then incorporated in the voluntary compulsory specifications. Secondly, with SANAS, with regards to the number of accreditations that we have, we are accredited to 7025 for the laboratories, 7065 and 7021 for certification, and also working together with the NEMISA, more with regards to metrology, specifically around radiation metrology. In terms of the services that we provide, we are a 3B entity, and we continue to provide product and system certification. And that product and system certification is then supported by the testing services, more around mark scheme, but also for other clients that do not necessarily form part of the mark scheme. We continue to provide concerning inspection, specifically around the textiles and fiber industry, even though that we want to expand to other areas where these services can be realized. We are operating in an environment that is very competitive, and as a result, we are competing with more than 35 certification bodies that are also accredited by SANAS. And the work that we do in the testing laboratory space, we're also competing with more than 1,000 laboratories and also 200 inspection bodies. This then means that as we continue to do this work, we must also remain mindful of the fact that we must be competitive. We must continue to ensure that there's financial sustainability, and the service that we deliver, it must be done so in a manner that provides and ensure that there's operational excellence in that regard. In terms of the financial performance for Q3, I will start with the commitments with regards to the standards that are supporting the reimagined industrial priorities. We had set a target of 80%. We have achieved a target we have achieved 52%. But I'm happy to indicate that of the targets that we have achieved, there are standards that were supposed to be published in Q4, and these have already been published in Q3. In terms of the standards where there are gaps with regards to the publication, we're already making progress such that these standards can be published in this quarter before the close of the financial year. With regards to stakeholder engagements and the reports that we issued, these targets are met, and we continue to have stakeholder engagement. And most of these stakeholder engagements are mainly with national departments, government departments, and also other stakeholders that are playing a critical role in terms of the work that we do. In terms of customer satisfaction, which is the rate at which we measure how the recipients of our services view the service that we provide, we currently have met the target. And we continue to monitor this so that we ensure that we stand and achieve the targets that we've set. With regards to the number of products, services, and solutions, this is a year target. However, we have already introduced a number of courses in Q3, and we are on track to ensure that we introduce another online course in Q4. In terms of a new certification scheme, there has been training that has been conducted in the scheme. We have already appointed a scheme developer, and the scheme that will be focusing more is more on energy performance certificates, and we are on target to ensure that this is achieved before the end of Q4. With regards to new test methods, these have already been achieved, and there's nothing to worry about in terms of this particular target. In terms of employee engagement, in the last financial year, we performed an employee engagement survey, but also in this year, we intend to also perform a similar survey. And the outcome or the results of these surveys will then be put together so that the implementation of the actions can then be done to address any points or areas that will have been highlighted. And this survey is currently underway, and we are aiming to close it before the end of this financial year. With regards to women supported, whilst we take note of the fact that as an organization, we've been going through organizational review, and as a result, also still making sure that we achieve this particular target, we are happy to indicate that we have achieved it. In terms of youth, this target has not been achieved, but I'll be talking in terms of the details with regards to the youth that we have employed, specifically around the intake of graduates that has taken place. In terms of people with disabilities, this has also not been achieved. As we embark now on the phase 1 of the recruitment of prioritized roles, these are some of the targets that we'll be mindful of so that we make sure that we contribute meaningfully towards this. In terms of financial performance for Q3, as it stands, the institution has achieved a profit of 63%, 63 million rands versus a target of 1.6 million rands. And this profit is attributed to a number of initiatives, mainly with regards to cost containment, interest that has been earned in terms of the investments, and also other revenue generation efforts that have been realized, more so within the SABS commercial space. For cost containment and cost to income ratio, this target has been achieved, and we continue to monitor this in line with the cost containment that have been announced, but also to make sure that we continue to ensure sustainability of the organization. Overall, Chair, we've got 13 targets. predetermined objectives. Of these, we have achieved 7. 2 of these are annual targets, and 4 of these have not been achieved. As indicated, that there are a number of steps that we are putting together and actions to address these gaps, and we are confident that at the end of this financial year, most, if not all of these targets will be achieved. From a financial performance point of view, at a high level, we've got a revenue of 333 million rands versus a target of 341 million rands. And the issue here has been the contribution from the laboratory services space and also the business and advisory services. But I'll talk to this when I get to the details in terms of operations area. With regards to expenses, there is a positive variance here of 59 million rands. So as we continue to monitor our expenses in line with our revenue, we ensure that these are contained, and then we can also only be approving expenses that are linked to revenue generation efforts, and then they're also recovered. With regards to the profit, as indicated, we've got an actual of 63 million rands versus a budget of 1.8 million rands, and we'll continue to measure this. We foresee that towards the end of the financial year, this number might be reduced a little bit, as we anticipate that there is a recruitment, there is also the capex that we're buying, and also at the same time, there will be other costs that might be coming in, but we still be able to achieve a positive profit. In terms of the contributions to the DTIC output targets, there are a number of targets a year. Overall, there are 23 targets. Of the 23, 18 have been met. The first one is the local content, both in terms of the number of projects that have been completed and also the percentage. With regards to the number of projects that have been completed, we've only achieved 40%. There are a number of projects that are currently undergoing a review process to ensure that we achieve the targets that were set for this particular KPI. With regards to the value, 86% of these LCV projects have been achieved. The interns that we have employed, there is a target of 65 interns at the end of the financial year. We have achieved 60 year to date. Hosting of the Black Industrialist, this is an action that we had hoped that we will implement in Q3. However, due to cost containment, we have combined this together with the mining indaba that we are setting out for ourselves, which is our form of a roundtable where we invite a number of mining related companies so that we can have a conversation with them. We are planning to invite also the Black Industrialist, and that session is set up for tomorrow. In terms of the outreach programs, we have conducted 2 outreach programs, one in Ventersdorp and also one in Escort. There is another one that is planned for the 26th of March in Zanin. This is the target that we anticipate that it won't be met, and because it's been influenced by the number of the cost reductions that have taken place. Supporting SMMEs in terms of the services that we provide, we have issued vouchers of 1.6 million rands worth. This is not money to the SMMEs, but the services that we provide to them in terms of certification, training, and testing. With regards to the procurement spend, currently we're sitting at a target of 50 million rands that we have targeted for Q3. We have already achieved and surpassed that particular target, both for SMMEs and also for the spend broadly. Number of standards that are published within the agriculture and mining sector. 3 standards have been published versus a target of 2. Number of certificates and permits that within the energy, environment, and sector, in the mining sector, 8 of these have been issued versus a target of 3. With regards to our response time and the turnaround time on the WTO and TPD inquiries, this is still within the 48 hours that has been agreed upon. Pertaining to signing MOUs with the SEZ, we have already concluded 1 MOU in this quarter with the Tshwane Automotive SEZ, and other MOUs are under development, and we are all aiming to have these concluded before the end of this quarter. Exhibitions, as indicated, for Black Industrialists, that is planned for tomorrow, and what we are planning to do is to invite these Black Industrialists in our mining roundtable discussions so that then we can understand the work that they do, the services that we provide, and then as we report in Q3, we'll then provide a detailed view in terms of which one of these industrialists participated, what are the services that they provide, and what are the services that we can provide to them, and what is the way forward. Hosting of the BRICS, we've conducted that in November, and it was a successful event, and it resulted in the culmination of a draft MOU between the BRICS countries, and that MOU is then being looked at so that it can be finalized. We have also convened the AGOA Forum, a part of an event during the AGOA Forum in November, and that was also a successful event. It was an event in which we were showcasing our standards and the quality assurance and how they support the intra-Africa trade and continental free trade agreement. Energy efficiency standards, we've published a lot of standards in this regard, and some of them are already in the advanced stages of publication. 4 has already been published versus a target of 3. Trade agreements, we participate, honorable members, to a number of committees, both at the regional and international level. Our commitment has been that we must participate at least 35 technical committees, and already now we've already achieved that target. We are also participating in the energy electrical vehicle space with regards to understanding the ecosystem and how does that align with regards to our mandate. And as it stands now, we've already published 4 standards. We are in the process of developing and finalizing the feasibility study for the certification space so that then we can be able to launch a scheme that aligns with the electrical vehicles. Our participation in the emerging areas, hydrogen being one of them, we have set up a committee, and then the National Secretary and the members have already been appointed. The business plan has been finalized, and now the committee is set to then commence with its work with regards to the proposals and the various stages in the development of standards. Lastly, on these targets, the implementation of digital solutions, we have implemented a board management system called Convene, and we are busy with the training now so that that system can be utilized. And also we've issued a number of tools of trade so that we can be able to assist the SABS Exco and also the board, and those are the iPads. Publication of standards, which is an area that we continue to monitor to ensure that these standards are published within the set timelines, so that then they can be utilized by the intended recipients. We've got a target of 320, and we've already achieved a 304, and we are aiming to ensure that this target does not exceed 320. With regards to case studies, we've already issued or participated in 15 case studies, and there's a target of 20 case studies, and this target will be met. Now, covering the case studies, Chair, we've got a number of case studies that we have embarked and put together. We always make sure that when we conduct these case studies, we target a number of sectors. The first one is the Revive Electrical Transformers, based in the south side of Johannesburg. This company manufactures and refurbishes transformers. It's a long-standing SABS client, and the client and the service that is provided to them is MAX scheme, specifically for the testing of medium to high voltage products. Zone Chemicals, which was established by 2 friends, specifically with the issues of chemicals, and it's within the chemical manufacturing sector. The services that we provide in this one is a MAX scheme. Coral Brick, based in Olifantsfontein, is also participating in the civil and industry sector, and the services that we provide to this particular client are MAX scheme certificates. Swan Plastics, based in KZN, is mainly in the civil and electrical sector, and the service that we also provide in this one is MAX scheme, mainly product certification. SME Lighting, we also provide a system certification, ISO 9001 certification, and they're in the electrical sector. And this has also been a long-term trending client for SABS. In terms of operational summary for all the areas that we're operating at, I'll start here with the standards division. The standards division, we have published 145 national standards, of which 60 of these are homegrown and 85 of these are national adopted standards. What we normally do is that we adopt standards that have been published by ISO, and in terms of the committees that we have, we mirror the work that we do together with the work that is being done by ISO committees. Homegrown standards, these are the standards that will have been published, and then we convert them into a South African national standards, taking into consideration our environmental conditions, and then we take them through that process. And these are the various sectors that contribute to that. In terms of the average turnaround time, I've already indicated that it's 304 days as opposed to a target of 320 days. From a certification point of view, as much as we are certified and we certify other clients, we also have to be evaluated by other certification companies, so that we make sure that we stick to the requirements, and also we abide to the conditions that we need to follow. We've got RVA that is based in Germany. They came through in December and we had a positive outcome. They only raised 4 non-conformances, and all of those have been submitted, and 2 of them we are waiting final confirmation from them. The 2 has already been closed. We embarked on a process to also look at our certification as a division in terms of revenue and the completeness thereof from the beginning until the end. But the main aim was to also ensure that whether there is money that we're leaving on the table with regards to our pricing, and that work has been done. The project is at an advanced stage and it will be completed by the end of this financial year. With regards to laboratory services, as indicated, that this is one area where, in terms of meeting their revenue targets, they have not achieved, specifically the contributions that come from the electrotech sector. They've also been assessed by SANAS and a positive outcome was realized. What we are doing now is to put together a turnaround that is focused more on the electrotech sector, so that we can make sure that that particular area is then going to achieve the targets that it's supposed to achieve. We are also accelerating the implementation or the rollout of the CAPEX for the division in terms of the amount that has been issued, so that we can make sure that where there are operational excellence issues that need to be addressed, with the limited CAPEX that is made available, then we can be able to realize those. We continue to have a number of stakeholder engagements in the form of events, but also in terms of the roundtables that we have. As indicated in my extreme right, these are the number of stakeholders that we have engaged. We've engaged a number of them in specifically around the automotive sector, aligning our efforts with regards to the electric vehicles or the new energy vehicles, and some of them in other sectors, so that then we can then continue to do the work that we do. But more importantly, in this particular slide is the manufacturing endeavor that we participated in, the AGOA Summit, and also the roundtables that I've indicated. Human and capital. As an organization, for the past 2 years, we've been embarking on an organizational review process. I'm happy to indicate that that process has been concluded. And as a result, now we have filled in the roles that have been prioritized, using the employees or making sure that the employees that are currently in the deployment of SABS are placed. There are roles that remain vacant, and we've prioritized 59 out of 125. But out of that 59, we're going to be doing it in phases. We started with phase 1, which is 39 roles, and the rest are going to be done. But I'm also happy to indicate here that of the graduates that we have employed, we have absorbed 47 graduates permanently into the new structure. And this is us contributing towards the employment of youth, but also ensuring that once we have developed and actually ensure that we empower these graduates, they then get to contribute meaningfully into the work that SABS does. From a learning and development point of view, there are a number of leadership development programs that colleagues are embarking on, and then to make sure that we continue to build the pipeline, but empower the leadership, the next layers, so that as we work together, we can then be able to achieve the objectives that we have set achieve. Lastly, on this slide, Chair, is that in terms of employee relations, I want to indicate that with regards to employee wellness, because the org review process and other initiatives or other challenges necessitate a need for employees to have access to wellness programs, we do have a wellness program that has been put together, and employees continue to utilize that. With regards to the relationship with labor, I want to indicate that the relationship is healthy. Is healthy, Chair, it does not necessarily mean that at any given point we will not have areas where we've got differences, but we've created platforms such that these differences can be resolved, and we can work together in achieving and making sure that there's stability within the organization. But we are also cognizant of the fact that there are prevailing legislation that allows a labor union to explore the right that are vested to them. But that must also be done, taking into consideration that the organization remains committed in ensuring that we continue to have dialogues that seeks to ensure that there's stability in the organization. In terms of stakeholder engagement, we classify the number of stakeholders in terms of what needs to be managed closely, keep satisfied, monitored, and keep informed. And these are the number of stakeholders that we have engaged. As you'll see on the slides, there are a number of national departments, government departments, and other strategic partners that we work with Key on this one are the SANAS and NRCS and NIMISA as indicated in the earlier slides, and this seeks to demonstrate the collaboration and the work that we do together with them. We participate in a number of international stakeholders with regards to ISO and IEC, as we participate also around hydrogen technology, circular economy, the hemp and cannabis industry, electric vehicles and battery technology. The aim for us is to contribute meaningfully in the developments of these standards, but also to learn from those who have come before us in terms of best practice and take that work and bring it together to the various technical committees that we have aligned with these particular sectors. This one, Chair, I'm not going to get into it. These are just the details of the stakeholder engagement that we have participated on. In conclusion, Chair, I wish to emphasize that as we embarked on the process from November, guided by the board with developing strategic objectives, there are a number of focus areas that have been highlighted. The first one being us ensuring that we continue to grow revenue and the return on investment. We must continue to deliver in line of the mandate. Issues that relate to operational inefficiencies must be addressed. The infrastructure and the CAPEX programs need to be accelerated. And lastly, we need to make sure that we have a capable and capacitated human capital as a function and also with regards to the organization. These are the focus areas that have been identified. Taking that in line, we have then developed the draft plan that has been approved by the board, submitted to the executive authority for consideration. And once that is then finalized, then it will then inform the objectives that we're going to be looking forward and implementing from Q1 in the next financial year. We continue to implement the actions that seeks to close the gaps that have been identified in Q4. And what we have also done in this particular regard is to monitor these on a monthly basis so that where there are actions that needs to be undertaken to further close these gaps, that can be done. The acceleration of the CAPEX programs remain our priority to ensure that the funds that have been allocated to us, we then get to spend them. But more importantly, we make sure that the gaps that we'll have identified that inform the business cases for these CAPEX programs, we close those gaps and we can realize the benefits of financial sustainability and operational excellence. We have noted challenges in this regard, and the challenges revolve around the process that it takes with regards to the approval of the CAPEX, but internally. And that process, we are working at optimizing the process, but still remain compliant to the relevant prescripts. But we have also noted that there are capacity constraints, more so around the project managers to implement this, and we have prioritized them in the first phase to ensure that the project management as a space is capacitated. Matters relating to the development of technical specifications also remains an area of concern, as this impact the speed at which we take this to the market, but more importantly, the quality of the submissions that we get from the market. So these are the things that we'll be unlocking to ensure that the acceleration of the CAPEX programs is realized, and then we can achieve the objectives. As indicated, that we remain with 125 roles that have been prioritized, but not been filled. Of that, we have prioritized 59, and we are going phases and 39. So our aim is to ensure that where capacity and capability, there are gaps, we want to enhance this so that then we can be able to deliver. But we are very much mindful that this has to be done and sequenced in a manner that it does not affect the financial sustainability of the organization, and we don't go back to where we were before. That's why we have to make sure that there is a prudent way in which we do this work, and is sequenced, and it must be informed by business cases that suggest that there is a need for a resource. But more importantly, the utilization of the resources that are available remains an area that also needs to be enhanced so that then there's a balance between the two. Chair, we wish to ensure that there is continued engagement with a number of stakeholders, and we are grateful from the support that we've been getting from the board, our DTIC colleagues, and also the guidance that we're getting from the PPC committee, the participation of employees in the programs that we do, and the work that they continue to deliver, the work that we had promised to our clients and to the various stakeholders, but more so to the customers who at times have been very patient with us as we're going through very difficult times. To the industry at large, we can't and cannot implement this turnaround strategy and the new program that we're putting together without the support that we get from them. More so in ensuring that the services that we do are fit for purpose, and the investments that we do are also fit for purpose, and they can contribute meaningfully to their industries as we go forward. Thanks, Chair. That will be the end of the presentation.
Thank you very much, Acting CEO Ntobongwana. Committee members, can I take hands for interaction with the report? Members? Okay. Honorable Malamacha.
Mr. Mbuyani.
Mbuyani.
Mr. Bergman.
Bergman. Okay, in that order, Honorable Malamacha.
Thank you, Chair. I think let me start by welcoming the presentation by the acting CEO, a detailed one for that matter. We really welcome this. And we wish this issue of the CEO can be fast-tracked. Honorable Chair, in the society, there is this notion that people do reserve jobs in a modernized way. If my child is in the university, I'll keep not necessarily appointing and not an appointing until the child graduates. So I give that job to this child. Can be correct that when we are swimming in a very huge pool of unemployment ocean, we can't fill strategic positions, and we keep having people who are acting on that. I think as a committee, we are a bit worried, and especially when we'll be told that maybe end of the month there will be another improvement. We want to see action on that. Honorable Chair, we visited the institution, and in the CEO's presentation, I don't hear the CEO, in particular the acting, talking how are they going to improve the maintenance of that particular institution, which is a very critical institution that we don't want it to collapse. Underground pipes are a ticking bomb that if we don't take it head on, it might compromise the good work, if not the mandate of this entity. The CEO talked to us about intention and how best and how practical will this happen and be visible, because we are very much concerned about what we saw there. The good work is good when it's done in a very safe institution. Chair, the issue of industrialists, I'm not necessarily happy to hear that, by the way, tomorrow we've got a mine in Indaba, we intend to bring them. I'm welcoming that, but in future, it must be done in a way that is not by the way. There is a sitting of industrialists, given enough time in their own space created by the entity, have resolutions that will really sound, than go in there as just observers, if not visitors, who might be given attention by the way. And to make things worse, there are no observers from us. We are not even invited. And it's in Gauteng. Chair, we are in a democratic dispensation where workers themselves have a say in everything that is happening in where they are working. We received a letter here. There are letters that are going throughout. We also saw a march, and that says organized labor is not happy in the institution. I want the acting CEO to just sit on this and explain to the South Africans how is their relationship with the workers there, resolving all these issues in a form of grievances which were laid in letters where there was a march, so that we be at ease that the institution is safe and there's a good relationship between those that are accelerating the means of production and are also benefiting as the institution is benefiting. Chair, the issue of intent vis-a-vis the restructuring and there were issue of voluntary packaging. Now this intern are coming, yet you are restructuring, others are falling off. Just talk to us about that. And the issue of absorbing. You absorb this way, you retrench. Let's get a balance clearly so we are being taken into confidence that really there's a balance of what needs to be achieved. Now, the manner in which the institution conduct its disciplinary processes at some stage is a worrisome. It will be proper that we are also taken on board on that so that we be sure that there is safety on that. But all in all, Chair, as I did, I welcome the presentation. Those are the concerns that if one be answered on them, one will be satisfied. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Honorable Malamacha. Honorable Mbuyani.
Chairperson, thank you very much for the opportunity. Let me first welcome the presentation from the acting CEO. I think it's more eye-opening and also giving a clarity as to what is happening in the entity. Chairperson, I wanted to comment the collaboration around the stakeholder engagement with NLCS and also NEMISA. And also comment the collaboration with the BRICS and also AGOA in trying to at least find a space, because we once visited South Korea and they demonstrated how they are dealing with this issue of an institution like SABS collaborating with the universities of South Korea in trying to find a solution of the challenges that they are having in that specific country. So I can see that the SABS is getting there slowly but sure. So I wanted to check, Chair, the collaboration with those universities in terms of the program. How do they link with their internship program? And also their local content. What is it that they have now? Currently, we're having challenges in terms of energy and so forth. Do they have any program around the energy so that we are able to deal with it as soon as possible? And also, Chair, trying to check in terms of our previous visit, we had a turnaround strategy there. How far is the turnaround strategy, the implementation thereof, and what are the challenges, given the fact that Honorable Malamacha has alluded to some of the issues of the organized labor there and seemingly the restructuring and those voluntary package that were effected there. And maybe if you can be clarified in terms of the modernization program, how far is it? Is it linked with the laboratories? Because we had challenges with the cement laboratories. How far is it in terms of the cement laboratories? And also the communication, the digital space that we seen there. We also welcome the revenue generation, Chairperson, that is alluded to. My challenge is the issue of people with disability in terms of their iconogram. How far are they? Can we be clarified how many in terms of the iconogram that are deployed, young people, people with disability, and how are they going to deal with this matter? Because seemingly the turnaround strategy was talking of filling the vacancies because there are still vacancies there. How are they going to fill those vacancies that are there? Let me pause there for now, Chairperson, and thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you, Honorable Mbiani. Honorable Bergman. Honorable
Chair,
Bergman.
sorry, I was on mute there.
Okay.
Chair, thanks very much. Basically, if you look at the organogram in a year and a half with the board, it still looks a bit like Hollywood when we look at the acting CEO, and it seems that some of the board members have resigned. I think looking at it, it looks like we've already lost 2 board members of only 7 since the end of 2022. I'd like to know why that is and what we're doing to replace those 2 board members. I then see that in the KPIs that we don't have a customer satisfaction survey. Now, in terms of the customer satisfaction survey, we're also looking at the preparation software for finance, which was a source of concern for the Auditor General, who seems to believe that we were late in submitting finances. And you look at our internal controls, which is a concern as well, and you find a weakness. And as Honorable Malamacha said, you know, we all get letters, and a lot of concern has been around our restructuring, which there's been compliments, but there's also been a lot of concern. We know that there's had to be a need of restructuring, but there's been concern in terms of how it's been done and who's been let out and left off and who's been pushed out, so to speak. Now, one of the casualties seems to be the IT system itself, the compromising of the IT system. And I think what I need to ask is, has there been a breach in our security in the IT system in the last year? And do we still have a CRM system that allows us to do our job in terms of still being able to, inspect items in terms of being, the law says that we have to go inspect every 3 years. Now, if we don't have a CRM system, or our CRM system is weak, as alluded to, does this system highlight to us that we should be doing this, or we must be doing this? I mean, are we alerted to this fact? In terms of the financial statements that are declared here, again, some concerns around the fact that, yes, we declared a profit, and a nice healthy profit indeed. But, often we've seen municipalities say we've got a nice profit, and you wonder why they haven't spent their money. Now, in terms of, you look at the employee benefits, and there's been a decrease from the budgeted amount, a decrease of 13 million rand. Now, that's quite material for an organization of this size. So I suppose the first question one needs to ask, how come such a huge decrease of 13 million rand percentage-wise in such a small amount of time? And what's happening inside the organization that we have such a huge drop in the employee benefits? And then the same with other expenditure that's couched in a very articulate manner, in that there's only 5 fields of expenditure and not many more line items. But it says that there's a decrease of 40 million rand on other expenditure, next to our actual compared to what we planned. 40 million compared to that 47 million declared profit. That saving could buy us the IT system I talk of, or could buy the accounting, the audit committee that we probably need. So again, I need to ask, what was that 40 million rands worth of savings? We must have really, yes, started the belt somewhat, but 40 million rand in this financial report is again quite material. So, like my colleagues, I do want to thank the colleagues for a great report, but these do beg some very serious questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Bergman. Honorable Monakedi.
Chairperson, thank you very much. I also want to welcome the report, in particular progress that is being made to ensure that key positions are filled as soon as possible. For sure, the next time there is this type of engagement, we'll get a report which says indeed those positions have then been filled. My other issue, the other issue that I really want to, yes, I wanted to comment on, and Honorable Bergman has touched on it, and I think also Honorable Mbuyane, is the issue of the profit. In terms of the target set, I think the target was set at 1.6 million target, but they achieved 63 million, which means there is a positive, in inverted commas, positive variance of 61 million. And the reason why I'm saying in inverted commas is because I'm not very sure as to whether we can really call this positive variance. I want to believe that that 63 million that they managed to achieve was most probably at the expense of programs and projects that they were supposed to have implemented. And I think when they come to report on a matter like this, they should be able to say, actually, we should have implemented 1, 2, 3, which was going to cost so much, and therefore the positive, or rather the profit, was going to be at this level, which will then be a fair reflection in terms of their performance as far as the target is concerned. So I just want them to come back. I think they tried, but if they could just come back and indicate programs, projects, the values that contribute, that they fail to implement, that contribute to then this so-called positive variance. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. That's all the hands. Mr. Ntobongwana. And the team, of course.
Thanks, Chair, and thanks to all the honorable members. We welcome the question, Chair, as we seek to provide clarity that is sought. I'll take most of the questions, and then I'll indicate to the colleagues that will be taking the questions. Firstly, Katima Temba, our acting COO, will take the question from Honorable Mbuyane with regards to the local content and the program around the energy. And then the CFO, Khulufelo Masoga, will take the question that revolves around the 40 million rand saving around the other expenditure, and any other aspect that from a finance point of view that I wouldn't have covered. Let me start, Chair, with the questions that Honorable Malimacha has raised. I think the issue of the acting colleagues, both at an executive and at other levels within the organization, is noted. From an executive point of view, it's something that we are prioritizing so that we make sure that those roles that have been prioritized are filled. The chairperson did indicate with regards to the matter relating to the CEO in terms of the issue and how far are they going in that process. That is something that is in the purview of the board. And if you wish to add something, he can add something there. In terms of the maintenance budget, I want to indicate that our CapEx needs in terms of the infrastructure itself, the requirements for the CapEx, and what has been afforded to us due to the limitations with regards to the fiscus, they do not tie up. The CapEx needs go into the regions of billions because of the piping infrastructure, but also including the laboratories. However, we're mindful that there is limited funds that are available, and we need to utilize that. So of the funding that has been allocated to us, which is around about 190 that has been approved by the board, 53 million rands has been allocated to facilities, and a part of that is allocated to address part of the piping work and other auxiliary services that talks to compliance and HSE. It's not necessarily all of it that is required, or the amount is not adequate, but we are utilizing that which that has been allocated to us so that then we can start making inroads in this regard. There is maintenance budget that is allocated to this area on a yearly basis. But if you look at the aging infrastructure and the budget that is allocated, it is not enough. So a different approach will have to be taken. And those are the conversations that we will have with all concerned so that then we can then say, considering that we're a 3P entity, considering the challenges that we have, how can we then be able to raise what that is needed, but within the rules and within that which a 3P entity can be able to provide. In terms of the industrialist, I take note of the future considerations with regards to the industrialist. Honorable Malimaja, it's not a by the way, it's a planned event that we had planned as SABS. We've been conducting roundtables on a quarterly basis. And the mining industry is the one that we are doing this quarter, and it's the last one of the 4 that we have done. And we thought that it's important that we also invite the break industries that are in that particular space so that then we can be able to showcase the services that we provide and also give them an opportunity, because it is not us presenting, it's a conversation that we are having with the end users of SABS service, including potential end users of services. So it's a deliberate effort that we're putting there. We do take into consideration, we'll take into consideration when we do the planning, such that we can invite all stakeholders that can have a contribution in this, including the members of PPC who are available and willing to join the session. With regards to the issues that were issued, the letter that were issued by Labour, as I've indicated, is that the relationship is healthy. And I want to maintain that the relationship is healthy, but it does not necessarily mean that where there are differences, we cannot then be in a position then to talk about those differences. The first part is that we do have a disciplinary procedure that is approved for the organization, where each and everyone who has transgressed and there is a need for them to be put through a process, they need to be put through a process. It starts from being informal right until the point where that process can go to CCMA. So we've got an approved procedure that's utilized to deal with disciplinary issues. And each and everyone, and including employees, are then encouraged to then exercise their rights to lodge grievances where they need to lodge grievances or where there are employees who have transgressed, and they are subjected to a disciplinary process. And by nature, that is a process that has to be managed by an independent person so that then the outcome can be then achieved and then implemented. So those processes are there. The letters, the org review process that we embarked on, when we started this process, there was also a section 189, the VSPs and early retirement. And once that process was done, take into consideration the skills that we needed for the organization to continue, we then embarked on also running the org review process. When we started the org review process, more so with regards to filling the structure, we had to put together terms of reference. There were 2 sets of terms of reference that we put together. The first one is the one that dealt with the executives, the management, and the specialists at that time. And then, because we then get to the bargaining unit, we then also involved labor in the conversation with the view that we augment the terms of reference that have been improved, but more so that they can be able to then ensure that they also take care of the constituencies that labor represent. And we embarked on that process, and that process was then signed off. So those terms of reference guided the implementation and the placement of colleagues. At a point when then we had placed colleagues and then there were those that remained not placed and there were vacancies that were still available, we then put together the deployment a panel that then put together the terms of reference. And those terms of reference to deal with the deployment are also outlined in the original terms of reference. So it's not something that is happening in a vacuum. It's something that is happened in a controlled manner. And it's a consultative process where all the members are represented in the discussion, and then they can give their input. But it does not mean that when there are differences, as the organization evolves, we cannot engage on those differences. And we continue to open and make sure that our doors are open for that conversation with labor and all those that are concerned. With regards to the interns and the VSP and the likes, I wish to indicate that once the new structure was put together, there was a total of 758 roles that were prioritized. The head count at SABS at that time was 633 employees, of which 48 employees were fixed-term contractors and 585 were permanent employees. So the management had to make sure that the employees are placed following a process. Once we had embarked on the placement process and the deployment process, we then ended up with 125 roles that remained vacant, of which of this 125, 59 has been prioritized, and we are running it in phases. Phase 1 is 39 roles, and the balance is 59. We are saying prioritize roles because we don't want to fill all the roles in the structure. We want to make sure that the roles that are filled in, there is value that is realized by the organization and the financial sustainability is not compromised. So we continue to do that. And the reason that why we have decided to absorb interns is mainly because we've got roles that can be fulfilled by interns. These are the interns who have been with us for more than 12 months, meaning that they've completed their internship program. They qualify to occupy entry-level roles, but more importantly, they've acquired the skills that are needed by SABS. So instead of going us to recruit other people, we decided to absorb them following a process where we put together terms of reference, and then we place these graduates. And they are continuing to add value into the institution. With regards to the question that we asked by Honorable Mbuyane, the local content Katima will deal with that, and we take note of the collaboration with NRCS and NIMISA. We'll continue to do that. With regards to the turnaround strategy, in the stretch session that we had with the board, we asked this question in terms of how are we still implementing the turnaround strategy, and what is the progress? There is significant progress that has been achieved with the implementation of the turnaround strategy. The elements that have not been achieved are incorporated into the strategic objectives that we need to achieve as we go forward. The aim is to make sure that those are still also then going to be addressed, and then we can take it from there. If a need arises, Chair, through you, perhaps maybe we can make a detailed submission in this regard in terms of the items that have been identified, which ones of those have not been achieved, which ones are incorporated this, so that then the committee can have a view in that regard. For modernization projects, there is 127 million rands that has been approved for ICT. There is 53 million rands that has been approved for laboratory services. I'm going to start with laboratory services. We embarked on a process to have another bench for testing of cement so that we can increase capacity. The equipment and that space from an infrastructure point of view has been completed. What was required was for us to then recruit 5 test officers. We have recruited 1 test officer internally, and then the other ones were recruited externally. The last one of the 4 that were recruited externally is supposed to join us on the 15th of March. The next step would then be the training and ensuring that they are declared competent so that then they can be able to realize that. But in the meantime, we are ensuring that those that have already been absorbed and on board, they then get to be exposed to the processes and the work that we do so that we can get to that. We are in advanced stage with regards to the cement. The digital space, there are 19 strategic projects that have been identified. And the key to those strategic projects are the ERP, the CRM, various technologies that are applicable in the operations divisions, namely the labwares, the certification management systems, the standards management systems. Those have been prioritized. The implementation of these projects had to follow a sequence that then starts with the understanding of business requirements and specification. Once that is then done, then we look at then getting to a procurement process. That work is well underway. All of this is to ensure that whilst we are getting these programs on board, but we must remain compliant, because it's one thing for us to get them on board and then we are found wanting in terms of the compliance that we need to do. So this is within the radar of the executive team, driven by the acting COO, working together with the project management team, that these are then done. We then continue to prioritize these projects on a yearly basis, looking at funding availability and also the progress that we're making, and we're going to be doing the same. But the board has approved 190 million rands to be implemented. But it must be done in a sequence manner. With regard to people with disabilities and youth, as we note that we had not achieved our targets, with disabilities we're sitting at 2.1 or so %, and with youth we're sitting at 19.7%. As we recruit for this 59, our focus is also ensuring that we take note or take into consideration that. But we are also mindful of the fact that we cannot be discriminating. Our policies cannot be discriminating. But if we were to choose between competent employees and one is a youth, then we must choose a youth. If we were to choose between competent person that have been subjected to a process and one is a disabled person, we will choose a disabled person because we want to make sure that we achieve that. But we must not be doing that and discriminating other employees or other potential candidates in the process. With regards to Honorable Bergman, as indicated that the chairperson of the board might touch to the issue of the CEO once again, but also talk to the board members that have resigned in terms of why. We do measure customer satisfaction. It is indicated currently we are sitting at 76%. And we continue to monitor this because it gives us an indication of how the recipients of our services view us in terms of sticking to the commitments and the likes. Preparation for financials, there are a number of matters that were raised by AGSA with regards to internal controls. We have conducted a root cause analysis towards the end of the last year, calendar year. We have done a root cause analysis so that then we can be able to close this. One of the issues that was raised is the issue of the ensuring that draft financials are issued on time. We have embarked on a process of ensuring that we get a service provider that will do a verification or review of draft financials, because we don't necessarily have all the capacity that is required in our internal auditing department. That process is well underway. We should have a service provider on board and the contract signed in place by end of March so that then they can start reviewing the process. We have also capacitated the finance team in areas where there were gaps that were identified during that process, so that the quality of the financials and the errors that we find, including the working papers, then they can be of the quality that is required, so that come that time that the auditing are done, then it's done. Yes, indeed, we are utilizing JDE system. It's a legacy system, but in the ERP program that we put together as part of the approval that has been put together, that will then be taken care of. But in the meantime, we need to make sure that we use what we have. To manage issues that relates to controls, completeness of revenue, the team continues to do on a regular basis what they call exception reports, so that they can then see whether information is flowing from the operation systems to the JDE systems, and that on its own shows that there's completeness of revenue. Until such time that we've got an ERP system that can be implemented and then it runs there. I think I've touched on the issue of restructuring, and just to assure the members that the issue of restructuring and the placement of colleagues on the structure is done and is informed by the terms of reference, and it's done in line with the terms of reference. In instances where colleagues felt aggrieved, an appeals process was then opened, and then they lodged appeal. An independent appeals panel then looked at the appeals, and then decisions were taken, and then those decisions were then communicated. It still remains in the right of employees, because that was the final leg of the process. It still remains in the right of the employees to ensure that if they wish to take these matters to CCMA so that they exercise their right, then they can do so. But I'm happy to say that of the employees that have been placed, there is not more than 5 employees who have taken us to CCMA. And it's more about the issues to then say, I wanted to go to this job, I didn't want to go to this one. Why did I go to this one? And those are the matters, to summarize them, that are resulting us in get to SCMA. 633 employees and 5 employees that are going to CCMA, to me, says that the program was a success. Yes, there may be challenges. There might be issues that need to be resolved, and we need to resolve those issues until even those 5 employees are placed, and then they can be able to add value in the organization. With regards to the profits, with regards to the employee benefits specifically, as indicated that they were prioritized roles, and those roles we've delayed the process to fill in these roles, just to make sure that the placement process is completed. Now that the placement process is complete, and then now we've got a clear view of the roles that needs to be filled, and then we're embarking on phase 1. That saving in terms of employee benefits then talks to that, because we had delayed that to implement that. But we're not going to implement in the 125 that was budgeted for in the financial year. We will only implement prioritize 59, so that then 39 can be prioritized as phase 1 and then take it to the next. But the CFO can also be able to talk to that. Honorable Munagedi, the aspects that relates to, I think it talks to also the amounts, the profit. I would ask that the CFO also comes in there. Chair, that is it from my side in terms of the questions. Can I then maybe through you request that the acting COO Katima comes through with regards to the local content, and you'll be followed by the CFO to answer any finance related matters. And then through you, Chair, I will then hand over to the board chairperson to close any matters that I might not cover, and probably also do some closing remarks if there are no further questions. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you.
It's still morning, yeah. Good morning, Honorable Chair and
Yes, it is still morning.
Yes, and honorable members, and including SABS board members present today. On the issue of local content verification, I think it's common cause now to honorable members where we stand in terms of the provisions of the triple PFA as regards local content verification. And having received guidance from the department, this is DTIC, on the notice that was shared with procuring entities to say while the bill is still underway on the triple PFA, to also possibly consider aspects of local content in advancing the localization agenda. Procuring entities were given an opportunity to consider voluntarily inclusion of local content requirements as in when they procure. But where we stand from a SABS perspective, years back through TPE, we forged a partnership on the work we were doing, working closely with DTIC. Insofar as entities that were reporting to TPE, as in when tenders are published and are awarded through TTIC and TPE, those tenders will then be given to SABS for verification. So that work is underway, and then as reported in our performance of KPIs, we continue to advance that work, and then we hope to close most of those local content verifications by the end of the financial year. But while there has been this perception that there's been this void insofar as local content verification is concerned, from a SABS perspective, we were proactive in ensuring that we also develop and implement a pre-verification scheme. We call it a grading scheme. And it's intended at not, as you know, that the current verification in line with SARS 1286, which is a standard we use to calculate local content. Most of those tenders, we only verify them post-award. But the scheme we have developed and launched from a SABS perspective focus on pre-award. So clearly what we're trying to do, and through the cultivation that we've been embarking upon to make sure that there is an uptake of the service, both public and private, because it can be used by all. To say companies can be verified upfront, and then they can possess a local content certificate, which is valid for 5 years. And through that certificate, as and when they are tendering or the certificate is required, wherever it will be required, those companies are able to present that certificate to whoever may require the local content verification. But we've been embarking on a number of stakeholder engagements and really promoting this local content verification. The recent meeting we had last week was with the Valve Association together with SAFSA, and really creating this awareness on the work that we are doing. But we'll continue to do so with a number of stakeholders to say local content is still around and it's still relevant, and as and when they require the services, SABS is readily available to provide the service. I can further confirm that we went even beyond where we are. We've bolstered capacity in this environment to make sure that we establish critical mass internally in making sure that we're able to respond to these verifications that are required. So it's not only a closed arrangement as we are managing it, it's also a composition of a hybrid system, as in when we require external resources capacity to bolster us in making sure that we respond accordingly on the nature of these verifications. Some of them can be long and complex through the panel of these service providers. As we procure them in line with our procurement processes, we continue to tap on them as and when a need arises. But we don't limit it there. We also draw from our testing engineers within SABS to also make sure that capacity is bolstered to respond as and when the need arises. Chair, over to you. Thanks, Acting CEO.
Thank you, Mr. Timber. So it's the CFO now.
Thank you very much, Chair, and a good day to you all. I will be taking questions pertaining to finance that have been raised. I'll first start with the question that has been raised around the submission of the financial statements on time. Indeed, as the CEO has alluded, we have done a root cause analysis post the audit just to determine the type of interventions that we do require just to make sure that we do not have to submit the financial statements. And some of the root causes pertaining to that, the major ones was the capacitation of the financial accounting department. So one can report that in that area, we have ensured capacitation well before financial year end. In addition to that, there was also an AFS preparation app that was changed in the previous financial year from casework to draft works. So we have ensured that throughout the year after we've concluded the audit, we are all familiar with that financial statements preparation app. So part of the interventions that we've done during the just to ensure the preparation involved one, the interim audit, interim financial statements, and also involving the internal audit. The main purpose was to time the time that it will take for us to prepare the financial statements, and again to ensure that if there are new standards that have been introduced in the financial statements, they are assessed on time, and to also give the opportunity for internal audit, that is the resources that are within, to ensure that we are compliant and we are ready to. We've done those exercises, and where we are confident that we will be able to submit the financial statements. In the previous Audit and Risk Committee, we also did prepare submit a plan on how we're going to tackle the interim AFS review as well as the final year end. We've already started with the year-end processes just to ensure that the whole organization is prepared in terms of preparing for the year end. So I think shortly one can say that we are very much ready to ensure that this year we do submit financial statements on time, because a lot of effort has been put in place to ensure capacitation and right resources. With regard to the questions of financials, I will start with the profit reported as end of December, which was sitting at 63 million. The main contributor to that, one is the interest that has been realized on our call accounts. We do have treasury management principles, which ensures that whatever funds that are not being utilized are kept in interest-bearing account. On top of that, we've already started with the investment strategy just to ensure, or maybe to give a guide as to how we will be deploying those funds that we have generated from a rendering of the services in the SABS commercial to ensure that there is maximum return, and treasury management has been one of those. And yes, indeed, there has been a saving in the employment cost. In the employment cost, there was, as the acting CEO has alluded, there were efforts that have been made to ensure that the deployment process is completed, and again, following the deployment process, there is also recruitment for the crucial positions. So that contributed, because it happened during the later part of the year due to processes that were to ensure the integrity of the processes. So it resulted us in having a saving in that area of about 33 million. In that particular regard. But it's not a saving that will continue over the years, because as the entities being capacitated and we are dealing with deployment of the employees, we are going to seeing that expenditure being reported at par with the budget. There were initiatives that were also planned during the year with regard to ICT. repairs and maintenance and contract services that got delayed due to the procurement process. And by that, I mean that we were very much resolute to ensure that we do, if we have an RFP in the market, we ensure that they respond accordingly to the specifications that are being set, and that we've got repeatable service providers. So there has been a number of instances where some of the tenders have to be re-advertised just to ensure that there is quality in that particular process. And those initiatives are going, most of them are going to be implemented at the later part of the year, and some are going to be rolled forward. Included in the ICT, there were also projects around introducing some of the systems, like the learner management systems, which during the year, having looked at the SLA, we had to check whether we are receiving value for money. For the repairs and maintenance, there has been a saving there in that there were contracts that were entered previously for the maintenance of the conditions, the electrical and the plant room. The trend that we have seen in the past year is that as the resources are being employed and those resources come with the special skills, it made us to make a decision not to renew those. We expect that the savings in the budget in those areas where we have not renewed because of the new skills are going to be maintained as part of our cost containment strategy, just to ensure that we do not have to renew the contracts for services that we do not require, or for the skills that have matured in the organization that we can take up for ourselves. But in addition, there is a plan in place to ensure that the repairs and maintenance is not compromised, and there are initiatives that are planned, and then they will be rolled out during the first quarter of 2024-2025. However, having discussed the saving that has been raised, which quantifies to some 60 million, we need to emphasize that that saving was realized on the budget. When one looks at how we are performing with regard to the actuals that were realized last year, one has the comfort that we are at par. For example, on the employment cost, as 9 months up till the 31st of December 2023, we were at 297.6 million. So for the 2023 financial year, comparing the actuals year on year, we are 10 million above. The same trend is observed on the operating expenses. So most of the projects, or maybe most of the initiatives that has resulted us in a saving on the budget, were on interventions that we wanted to ensure, and as a result of quality checks that had to be made. That is the reason that we have realized that. So thank you very much. I think I've covered some of the questions. If there is any that I have omitted, I'll take this opportunity to be pointed to that specific one. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Acting CEO, did you want to take any point?
No, Chair. I was just going to then say that we have responded from our side, and I'm going to hand over to Dr. Malinga to respond to any questions. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Chair and honorable members. Yes, I think there are a couple of questions or comments that were made with regards to the CEO appointment. We do take the point, and indeed the board is concerned about the time this has taken for us to get to a point whereby we have a permanent CEO. And I think what has delayed the process is for us to be meticulous in what we're doing, to ensure that everything's above board. We follow the necessary processes that are there, and we get the most suitable and qualified candidate to lead the organization. So that's what has delayed the process in large measure. But as indicated, we are at a critical stage at the moment, and we're hoping that we will conclude some of our processes within the board in the next month or so, and be able to make a recommendation to the minister without further delay. So that's what I want to assure you on. The other point was on the board members, yes. And so the board consists of 7 members, and 2 of those have resigned for various reasons. One was a conflict that was prohibiting the member as well as the SABS to continue due to the conflict that had arisen. And the other one was for personal reasons that were expressed by the member. And indeed, we have communicated to the minister and the ministry the need for those 2 vacancies to be filled, and we continue to follow up with the minister on the progress to that. And indeed, it could well be that the minister may be in a position to update the committee on where that process is at, which remains in the remit of the minister. And then coming to, as I come to a close, I think we take all the points and the comments that were made by the committee. And indeed, our management has responded to some of those. We have noted some of the ones that you have raised, and indeed I'll raise some of these issues with the board. Issues of infrastructure, the human capital matters that we need to attend to, the profits that we're declaring, and how those are legitimate in terms of not being savings on things that we otherwise should have done and implemented within the business. And so we will certainly take those matters forward together with the others that you have raised as members. And so we really appreciate your robust engagement and the oversight that you are exercising and challenging us in our management and oversight of the SABS. And then in closing, I'd like to thank our acting CEO and his team. And indeed, I think one needs to thank our employees. We came during a time when SABS was in a turnaround phase. And where we are at the moment, where the board, especially after the strategy session that we had, we believe that we're in a place whereby we're stabilizing the business, laying a good foundation on a growth path. And that's the path that we want to take the organization to grow, to be sustainable, to achieve and fulfill its mandate as delegated and appointed. And so I would like to thank our employees as well as our management for the sterling work that they've done with regards to this. I would also like to thank the department, those on the platform, as well as the officials who support us and the minister on a day-to-day basis. Without their support and their guidance, we wouldn't be in a position to have achieved what we have and still continue to achieve as an organization. And lastly, as the sixth administration prepares to rise, we'd like to thank you as the committee chair. We'd like to thank the members. I think in the year or so we've been working with you, it's been very fruitful, very critical, open, and suggesting other ways we can improve what we do. And the passion with which you approach your oversight role and the engagement that you exercise and your professionalism, we really appreciate it. And we say thank you very much, Chair, and to the honorable members. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Malinga. There is another question I see from Honorable Mbuyani that he feels probably was not dealt with, which is the turnaround strategy, how far we are with the implementation. Is there still a turnaround strategy in place? And the challenges with organized labor. If those questions can't be answered now, then we request that responses be put in writing together with the other matter that the acting CEO spoke about. Okay, I see there's a thumbs up from the acting CEO, Ntobongwana. So I want to appeal to the board to make every effort that we appoint a CEO before we rise as the sixth administration. We've come a very long road with SABS. There's still much work to be done, but at least there's progress because we came and we found an organization that was under administration. And I think we've made significant progress, but of course, as in any organization, there's still challenges that must be met. I think the biggest one for me is the aging and crumbling infrastructure at the organization at SABS. But with that, let me close with SABS and thank you for the well wishes, Dr. Malinga, and thank you to the team at South African Bureau of Standards for the good work. And we ask you to work hard on the challenges that the committee members have raised that have not been met yet. I thank you very much. Members,
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Members of the committee, in closing, I just wanted to speak about the changes to our PC program. So the programming committee has scheduled a debate on human rights day, starting at 9 o'clock on the 19th of March, 2024. As a result of a change to the parliamentary program, we are going to reschedule our meeting for Tuesday, I think, the meeting with the engagement with the Minister on Trade Relations on ongoing negotiation, including the AfCFTA, and the outcomes in terms of the 13th WTO ministerial to the 26th of March. And then furthermore, the Secretariat is requesting an extension to complete the work on the committee's legacy report, as well as the DTIC second and third quarter program report. Therefore, we are scheduling a meeting, changing the meeting from the 13th of March, has been rescheduled for Friday, the 15th of March. So our meeting tomorrow has been moved to Friday to consider the first draft of both reports, of course, the legacy report and the second and third quarter of DTIC's performance. With that, committee members, can I check with the secretary whether there's any further announcements?
No, Chair, those were the major issues that you just raised in terms of the program. And we would abide by the decision of the committee in that regard. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you very much. Do you need a decision from the committee, or if there's no opposition to it, it will take it as
agreed to, Chair.
Changed? Okay.
Yes.
Sorry?
Correct, Chair. If there's no opposition to the proposal, we can assume that members are in agreement with the changes.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much. With that, we conclude this meeting, and thank you for attending. Goodbye.
Thank you, Chair. Bye.
Thank you. Chair, don't leave the chair.
Thank you, Chair.